What is going on, guys? It is your boy Vlhadus here on Sunday morning. Oh my god. It's been a good morning so far. Today I finally get to see my wife that I haven't seen in almost 5 days. That's going to be really fun and exciting for tonight. Cuz I miss her terribly. And then I got some good news. And I want to set expectations on this news. This is not anything with Steven or anything like Ashes related in a sense. But I got a potentially I am working out a date for a guest to come on my 1v1 and talk about MMOs and Ashes of Creation. For those of you guys who may know this content creator, again, since I've been a WoW Andy for a long time, Sir Dainses, thank you so much for the follow, man. Thank you, and welcome to the stream. We just started. Yeah, so I reached out to Metagoblin, who is a very well-known WoW creator. And he will be coming on the 1v1 to talk MMOs, the state of the genre. He actually made a video about Ashes of Creation, which I did see, so I can't really react to it, but I did see it. It was a great video, which the video is right here. Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan of him, for a long time. I love his takes. I love his opinions on stuff. And I think people like him, you're going to see a lot of content creators around this kind of sub-count, around this kind of, notoriety, whether it's in World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, Guild Wars 2, ESO, BDO. You're going to see a lot of people coming out of the woodwork when Ashes starts popping off. And Metagoblin, I just think we would have such a great conversation about just MMOs in general, about again the state of the genre, about why he's actually looking forward to Ashes of Creation. But he told me straight up that he really doesn't know much about Ashes yet, And again, there's a lot of people, like I said, in my stream, in other Ashes streams that I've seen from other content creators. We are starting to get a lot of new people, right? We're starting to get a lot of new people into the Ashes community. We're having a lot of people watching the Intrepid live streams recently, whether it's like the Node War showcase, whether it's the dynamic gridding, which is the server meshing one, or whether it's the Bard showcase. I think we are going to get a lot of people interested in Ashes of Creation. So I'm excited, guys. This is great news. I'm pumped. I think this is gonna be really, really cool. The only thing that sucks, of course, is that he's an EU buddy, and I think we're gonna have to probably work it out to where it'll be like a morning stream for me, so it'll be like sort of in the evening time for him. But we'll like I said, we'll try to work something out. I was just watching you on the Golden Feather recent episode. Hope you are well. Wanted to ask if you had confirmation on the 16th. We would be getting an Alpha 2 date, or we don't know. So that's the plan. I've watched that clip so many times. It seems to me, and from a lot of other people, that we are going to get like some kind of a date. But I also wouldn't be shocked if we didn't. You know what I mean? We were all thinking yes, we're going to get a date. We're going to get a date whenever, the July live stream happened, or the end of the July stream happened. And we got the month, you know what I mean? And I remember people asking, and I think Ashes of Creation, because people were asking before the stream even started on July, are we going to get the Alpha 2 date? And I remember Ashes Creation handle said, that is the plan. So, I think plans can change minute to minute. It really just depends on what Steven wants to do, right? A date when roadmap would start, not A2. I again, I think it would be a little bit how should I say this? I think if they're going to give a roadmap, I would love them to do more quarters in the sense of any physical dates and or months. So like, let's just say like the first major update for the Alpha 2 will be in Q1 of 2025. That is going to encompass the Rogue, the Summoner, 2 other biomes, or, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff, right? I think that to me would be the better play. But also, hey, like, you know, don't even give a quarter unless you know for sure you can hit it within that quarter, right? So you can give a roadmap on just what the future updates are going to look like with no dates associated with it. Because again, if you look at, and I said this in the Golden Feather, I've talked about this in other Discords with buddies of mine. When it comes to roadmaps, gaming companies tend not to execute them. And it just leads to disappointment, right? Whether that's New World, whether that's Ash's Creation themselves. I mean, they've given roadmaps back in the past. Many of you Alpha 1 people or pre-Alpha 1 or Alpha 0 people may remember some of those roadmaps. I think if they are going to give those kinds of roadmaps, I think it'd just be better just to give what plans you have as far as the updates are concerned, like what's in these updates. But as far as the dates, like I don't think we need to know the dates. The month is all we need. We don't give an actual dates because people get upset when the date changed. Well, of course, and this is the thing, right? Like I think people are trying to hold Intrepid to, you know, I think it's because of how transparent they usually are. I think they're holding Intrepid, I think, a little too closely to the fire most times. And I, you know, just don't think that's fair personally, because again, when it comes to other companies, it's like, yeah, like again, I mentioned this because I think it's a great example is Path of Exile 2. Path of Exile 2 came out with the whole trailer. At the end of the trailer, they gave a whole date of when the beta was going to be available to test. And that changed. You know what I mean? And again, there were people that were disappointed and upset and stuff. But again, it's like even a good company like Grinding Your Games, like stuff can happen, you know, things can change, right? Let me see. I don't expect any dates, but I expect periods. So something like we want to test this system for 2 weeks. Then we'll go through implementation for a week and move on from that. We're just going to list of those time frames and that's it. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of giving perspective as to, you know, in my head, I think it's going to be quarter based. So I think the first initial quarter, which is like fourth quarter of this year, is just going to be testing the base functionalities of a lot of the intro systems that they're going to give us, which is like pretty much all the primary archetypes except for the Summoner and the Rogue. So we're going to test all of that. We're going to test the, you know, the ability trees, the weapon trees. We're going to test how many weapons. I think 8 weapons that I think Steven announced. And then we're going to test like the caravan system. We're going to test, you know, story arcs, quests, commissions, probably some node features. There's going to be a lot of that stuff that we're going to be testing, right? Let me see. Hello. I think dates are fine. People are too attached. Guys, it's Alpha 2. Yeah, I completely agree. I just think it's just about resetting expectations and not being so demanding. Right? Excuse me. I think it's just a matter of just being, you know, like, hey, it's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like, again, it was just delayed by a month. On the grand scheme of things, that's not big at all. Like, you look at something like, again, like Path of Exile 2. They just said, oh, it's like sometime at the end of the year. Like, so they had a for sure set date, and then that went from a for sure set date to just sometime at the end of the year, right? And could you imagine if Ashes did that? If they just basically went back and did something like that? I think it would have caused way more controversy, in my opinion. Let me see. People working themselves into a frenzy under the delusion that it's pre-release. Well, I think a lot of people are also treating Alpha 2 as a kind of pre-release, early access kind of thing. And I think that only comes from the genre and other gaming companies that have done this kind of thing. So players are used to things like what PAX Day did, calling their alpha basically early access. which I guess, yes, you can consider an alpha early access, but early access has such a broad definition amongst gamers in the gaming genre. What early access is to me, in my own definition, is completely different from someone else's definition, and that's what's super problematic, right? In my opinion, people need to chill. It's just an alpha. Yep. How long will Alpha 2 go for? So I've said this many times. I think the Alpha 2, I would basically strap in. This is definitely going to be a marathon and not a sprint. So if you're thinking Alpha 2 is going to last just a couple of months, 6 months to a year, change your mindset now. Completely change it. We're looking more realistically 2 to 3 years. That is probably a way healthier and more realistic expectation of how long Alpha 2 will last. I think requesting time off work for the start of Alpha 2 is risky. You're more than likely going to sit in queues for the first bit. Possibly. Like, I think, for me, like, because I'm a content creator, right? Like, I'm going to, be there day one, experience all the stuff with you guys. I'm sure everybody that's usually in my chat is very passionate, hardcore Ashes people. But yeah, I do think for the majority of people that, are content creators or whatever, I think, especially for the first 2 or 3 days, it might be a little, much asking to, get like, a couple of days off when you probably won't be able to play it as much as you want. And again, I am hoping and praying that we get a really smooth Alpha 2 launch, but it is what it is.
I'm gonna come.
Yeah. So let me see. I've been scouring the internet for any half decent MMO to play while waiting for Alpha 2, literally seething at the mouth like a down bad crack addict scrambling the floor for scraps. Any advice other than obvious ones which aren't appealing at all? So for me, like, I've had to go back to my old addiction of playing World of Warcraft with some buddies of mine, which is one of them is in chat. Actually, one of them that actually borderline, twisted my arm for me to play. But honestly, like, I just want to play a game with friends. Like, even a very shitty game, can be so much fun with a group of your buddies. Who could that be? I wonder, Roar. I wonder. Intrepid themselves have built up Alpha 2 into some sort of early access. They have been talking about the build up to Alpha 2 for over a year now. Correction, they've been talking about Alpha 2 for way longer than a year. But I think they haven't really set this up to be a sort of early access. I mean, if you go back and watch even the lead up to Alpha 1, Steven has always been very clear, if you're on the fence, if you're skeptical about this product, please do not purchase their packs. Just watch from afar. I mean, this is not my words. This is Steven. This is the CEO. This is the head honcho of Intrepid Studios. He's been very clear for people as far as, properly setting expectations. Let me see. To be fair, though, making us wait 3+ years between alphas is causing all this craziness. Well, the thing is, guys, is that there was a lot that they there's a lot that they have to create for this game, guys. Like, this isn't a run-of-the-mill MMO. Like, this isn't your standardized basic bitch MMO. This is far beyond and far exceeds any kind of a basic MMO. Systems, design, content, it's a lot. And you have to also take into consideration that at the end of Alpha 1, they basically had, I think, finally up to 100 developers. They finally doubled that. And that was recently, right? So you have to also take into consideration, right, that the fact that they have to train their new people. They've also been updating from Unreal Engine 0 to 5.1 to 5.2 to 5.3, which also causes like those little micro delays. Like, there's a lot of stuff that they're trying to pull off and they're trying to do. And I understand that to the greater community or whatever, they don't care about all that stuff. They're here just waiting, twiddling their thumbs, being impatient. But there's a lot that Intrepid is trying to do to give you guys and to give all of us like a really solid experience, right? But solid experiences take time to cultivate. Do you think the game will be what you want it to be in Alpha 2? Probably not at the beginning, right? But this is why I think a lot of us are here, is to shape this game as best as we can with the principles and foundations that Steven wants. It's why I became a content creator, actually. Feel like a lot of people's expectations are far too high for Alpha 2. I'm excited to test, not play. Yeah, I think that's the same person as me. I'm excited to test. I'm excited to really see like the issues on certain systems and to try to cultivate those issues into a workable plan of action for Intrepid, and at least present it in a way where, like, again, it's my own feedback, right? And again, you don't have to agree or whatever, but there's going to be systems that I'm probably not going to like, that I'm going to make videos about, that want to shape it in certain ways, just like how everybody is with certain things, right? I've talked to a lot of people that are very passionate about survival games, and there's a lot of people who've told me, man, if I go inside some of these dungeons and they're completely like lit up, like, I'm going to leave a lot of feedback saying like we should, you know, having to play with the lighting, and it should feel more like a survival game when it comes to dungeon design. And I disagree, but they can leave that feedback. I mean, that's just their opinion, right? Let me see. In every single video, you hear them say that it's a work in progress. Alpha will be a true dev alpha. Yeah, I know. They've been very apparent about that. One question: when beta is out, not like almost game out. Okay, wait. One question: when beta is out, not like almost game out. So the beta is probably not going to happen until, I think beta 1 will happen 6 months before the official launch of the game. And then you'll have like beta 2 happen like 3 months before the launch of the game. That's kind of always been my speculation with that. 3 months per beta cycle. But who knows? It could be a 1 month. I mean, we just truly don't know. Let me see. I just hope they make COD pieces great again. Let me see. I'm just excited to see the new Vera. Dude, I'm excited just to be in the game, man. Every time that I've talked to somebody who's played, like, you know, I talked to Phantom or whatever, and I asked them, you know, when you watch the showcases, like on Twitch or on YouTube or whatever, that's one thing. But I wanted to know, like, when you actually were able to boot up the client and actually, like, have Ashes running on your computer, like, how did it look like? And everybody has told me that it just looks gorgeous. So I think, oh God, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to experience that, because I remember playing Diablo 4 and seeing Diablo 4 on Twitch and on YouTube look garbage. It was like, what the hell? This game looks like trash. But then when I played Diablo 4, I was like, oh wow, it looks so much better when you're running it on your own computer. I think Ashes is going to be very, very, very similar. Let me see. Are betas just for balancing? What are betas really for? So betas are for basically the final push and polish of certain systems. Right? So betas are basically there to kind of, in my opinion, betas are early access. Like, what my definition of basically early access is a damn near finished product that, you know, yes, there's some little polishing bits that we're still doing or whatever, but most of the game is as workable and as intended that you're going to get in the finished game. That to me is what early access is. It's like a little sneak peek of a finished game. Let me see. Ash is extremely immersive. Oh, absolutely. Stress test networks and final quality push. Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and let's go into some videos. And the one video that I want to react to first, and I have not reacted to this video or this series at all, but this is the first day that we are back. And I had to reach out to my boy Burns, and I think he's still in chat. Yes, cue the classical music, dude. I am freaking ready, dude. I honestly love the Bespoke series, man. As someone who, you know, a fellow podcaster, someone who does a podcast in the Ashes space, I think Burns's Bespoke is such a great, unique take on speaking to people in a way that provides great conversational pieces from many different perspectives in a very enjoyable, user-friendly or viewer experiencing way. So yes, I am ready, dude. Like, I am so ready to see this. Yeah, I know. Dude, I would, you know, I'm always down to go on Bespoke and talk to you, man. Like, we talked for like 2.5 hours the last time, and we were just laughing most of the time. That's why, like, every time when I see like the clips when I was on, I was always smiling, or you were always smiling, and we're like, oh, at the end of laughing, because I know it's like edited, right? So it's like you had to edit a lot of the laughing. It was just funny. All right, let's get into this. Bespoke season 3 episode 1. I'm excited. Let's freaking go.
When is release date for Ashes?
We've been wanting something like this for so long.
Ashes of Creation obviously is a game that is doing things the right way.
I think roughly 2 years of Alpha 2 is an acceptable time frame.
No, it's totally wrong. Roar's completely wrong. He doesn't even know MMOs. He hasn't even played MMOs, really. I don't even know why he's here.
Is Ashes truly the last hope of the MMO genre?
At this very moment, I think it's the best thing we've seen.
Intrepid Studios seems to be a lot different of a company than what we're used to, especially for
Dude,
MMO
Wolf!
companies.
Oh my
They kind of
God!
remind me of Larian Studios.
I personally expect Alpha 2 or the live release for the game to be sometime in 2020.
Is there no one else? You literally... Is there no one else and you have Bob Ross baiting? Oh my God. I already love it. This is so good.
Welcome back to another season of Bespoke, a series where I ask Ashes of Creation content creators loaded questions. We've got a fantastic cast this season,
Huge.
so please enjoy. When is release date for Ashes?
December 31st, 2027.
Why?
I think that's an appropriate amount of time. We are just over 3 years from that date, with Ashes of Creation Alpha 2 launching now-ish.
Nowish.
I think roughly 2 years of Alpha 2 is an acceptable time frame. I've always said 2 to 3 years in Alpha 2, but I just want to believe that it's not going to be 3 years because I want to play the full launch.
Dude, I would say 2 to 3 years, and believe me, like I always cringe inside when I say that because I don't want. I mean, I want to play this game so bad, and I know what a lot of people do, but I also have to think of the realistic expectations and standards that this game has to basically do. Again, go look at the wiki. There's over 25 major systems that are all interconnected with one another. Like it's wild to me. The only way that I think this game can actually be feasibly done in about 2 years is if Intrepid hires probably 100 more developers.
I think they can knock it out in 2 years based on feedback and tester retention. That'll give them another year to polish and release a couple betas, and then quarter 4 2027 we'll get the game. 2027 at the soonest, early to mid 2028 at the latest.
Is that
Especially
a decade
because
of production?
Oh yeah.
10 years.
2028 would be just over.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we do have it on record, on camera, on recording of Steven saying we don't want to launch in 2030. So hopefully.
When do you think the release date is?
Oh gosh. I heard it through the grapevine that it's going to be 2077. And I'm going to be really happy when I'm in the nursing home.
Also really true.
No, just kidding. I would say, let's see. I'm thinking, well, that's a question for later. So, like 2026, maybe late 2026, early 2027.
2028, September 27th. No, when will the game release? I mean, I think there's a lot of people, this is another difficult one because some people think that the alpha will be relatively short and then the beta 1 and beta 2 will be relatively short. And when you look at the history of how long the game has already taken to develop, if you are a betting person, I think you would be a little bit strange to bet on anything less than 2 years. I think it's pretty obviously going to be more like 3 to maybe 6 years. And we're exactly on that.
See, what's funny is that Rives told me the same thing. Rive believes that it's probably in there 5 years away. And again, like I'm also trying to consider ramping up. And what I mean by ramping up is the continuing of hiring. Because again, the more people you have working, the faster and more efficiently and just the better timeframes you can get, right? Again, there's only so much physical labor you can get with finite amounts of people. So adding more people just adds that workload and distributes that workload so you can do more, right? More artists to create more assets, right? It speeds everything up so drastically.
Window is quite difficult. I personally think 4 years is not crazy. And I think
no, it's not
3
crazy.
is optimistic. 4 is not wild. We'll have to wait and see. I sort of spoke about how long it will take for them to do content after they've done the features. How long do the quests take? How long do the extra systems take? How long does it take to do a new biome? Again, not being a developer or anything like that, I don't really know. But when you look at the fact that Alpha 1 to Alpha 2 was 3 years, and you consider that Margaret has said that Alpha 2 will be a very long time, I can't see it being very soon, personally. So I'm definitely not expecting 2 years. 3 years would be a massive surprise. 4 is just seems sensible to me. So I'm saying 2028, I think. And I said September because games normally release towards the end of the year.
What's really crazy is that I've heard people say about New World that New World, when it launched, was still 2 to 3 years away from being the kind of game it should have been. There's people that say even now that the game is still not even where it should be. And New World is a very basic MMORPG. It is not anything sort of complicated, right? So I think Jay Oddity has such a healthy perspective on when and setting expectations of when Ashes of Creation is going to be coming out. That's great.
When is the release date?
2023.
It was 2018, wasn't it?
I remember those Rich
Or
videos.
I no longer believe that Alpha 2 is going to show up in 2022. I would be no copium aside, no dramatic. I'm trying to give views point of view from this, but I would say I bet Alpha 2 runs for a solid year and a half at the least, maybe pushing 2 years. And then there's going to be that, okay, we're going to respond to feedback from the end of Alpha 2 and implement all those fixes and all those changes. And I say end, but like it's persistent, so it's still going to... It's going to exist, but it's going to get to a point where we're going to have to be like, okay, we're moving into a beta phase, so I think we have to put a standstill and work on that feedback and get everything where it needs to be.
Dude, did you hear that? Oh man, Richie, whatever it is you are snorting, man, I want some of that because oh my god, I do not have the same sentiment at all, Richie. I think you're setting yourself up, brother, for some disappointment. And it's fine. I know that. And again, I think this also stems from the fact that people just have this huge trust with Intrepid, right? Like they, and again, like with what Steven and the team and, the developers are all doing, like I understand where that comes from. But then there's also the realistic expectations within themselves and within their company, and also the aspect of not wanting to let the overall MMO community down. They're not going to try to release something prematurely. Like Steven has said that so many times. So I admire his optimism though. I do. But
and then betas are supposed to be quick. So like 1 to 2 weeks per beta. So I could potentially see it fall of 2026, I think is probably the earliest I think we'd see it.
I think it's going to be in 2027. So I think depending, I think my most optimistic, like they add 100 more developers. They have a lot of things streamlined. They finish the process and everything. The Alpha 2 lasts 2 years after launch, so late 2026 is the earliest I see it. I personally expect Alpha 2 or the live release for the game to be sometime in 2027, like either late 2027, somewhere around the 3-year mark from Alpha 2's launch.
Let's go with mid to late 2027. On record.
Perfect.
There we go.
Perfect.
I'm right.
So
I know I'm
3
right.
years of Alpha 2 and then the betas kind of concurrently at the end there.
Yeah, I like that.
Is Ashes truly the last hope of the MMO genre? Why or why not?
Absolutely
oh God.
not. Saying that something is the last of something means our whole world's coming to an end. And there's just not going to be any time or effort to waste on making a new video game. We've been told this 1,000 times now. There's just what the MMORPG genre needs is like a renaissance. It's time for an evolution. It's time for a shift. Ashes of Creation, I do not believe is that shift. I think they're doing something different. But really, the only thing Ashes of Creation is doing that's revolutionary is nodes. Everything else has already existed in multiple different types of games, and they're just putting it all together. It really comes down to polish and stuff to make it actually, feasible and work. But the only thing that they're doing that's new and like unheard of in the MMORPG genre is nodes. So is
I disagree. I think the one big revolutionary thing they're actually doing is zero pay to win in an MMORPG. That's unheard of. Literally unheard of. Again, with how microtransactions, we've seen this whole video on microtransactions, cosmetic shops, pay to convenience, pay to win, whatever you want to call it. I think that's a huge thing that Intrepid and Steven has been very clear that they don't want, in their game. And I think that alone is a huge beacon to a lot of very hopeless MMO individuals out there looking for a home. So, I mean, I understand where Roar's coming from as far as like the actual in-game systems that really isn't doing anything revolutionary or anything like that. But yeah.
Ashes of Creation, The Last Hope? I don't think so. Right now, there's probably some 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid sitting in his basement, working on coding or just dreaming of building something great, and he's got a whole book of lore written already. And like, just think about like all like the famous like car builders and stuff, or like airplane guys. They all started dreaming of that stuff when they were kids. And right now, there's some creative little nerd out there who's ready to make something happen. And by the time he grows up, technology will be better, and he might be able to actually put his dream. Like, I think it's what's going to make the genre good right now. But there's always something better. There's always somebody better than you, and that stands true for MMORPGs. So,
but I do feel like what Burns' question is right. I think Ashes could be that cornerstone shift in the genre to start something from happening, right? Like, I think this could be sort of like a catalyst of change to start occurring, right? I think a lot of the major companies have been scared to differ from the WoW model, right? And also, like, they want to be able to appease their shareholders and their quarterly reports and earnings and, millions of dollars for bonuses towards the CEOs and stuff like that. But I feel like with Ashes and what Ashes wants to do, if they can truly succeed monetarily, like, I think that's going to be a really, really big thing. Because again, I remember when Baldur's Gate 3 came out and they asked, like, is there going to be any kind of microtransactions or any kind of like future expansions or updates that we going to have to pay for? And they said, no, like, Baldur's Gate 3 is a completed game. And that's also another issue with the overall gaming industry at large, is the fact that you don't own your games anymore. And we're selling you an unfinished game that you're going to have to pay full price for. And then we're also going to be selling you updates later. That's a part of the base game. Like, that's shit to me, So I think there's a lot of monetary practices, healthy monetary practices, that Intrepid is going to do. Again, I know people don't like cash shops, but again, if we had it up to players, we would want a free-to-play game with no microtransactions and no pay-to-win. How does a company like that make money? They don't. So I am okay with the cash shop. I am not like Peachy King excited for a cash shop, but I would rather have a cash shop with paid cosmetics than have what we currently have as a model. From all the recent videos I've been watching besides yours, people have been losing trust in Intrepid. I think there have been people to lose faith in Intrepid, but here's the thing. Like, anytime a person is losing faith in any kind of gaming company, all you need to do is release 1 3-minute cinematic, and that's it. You're good. All you need to release is a good product, and you're good. And I think Intrepid knows that. If people are losing faith in them now with no product, I think they understand that. That is why they delayed what they delayed, because they want to earn those people back with a good product. That is the point. AOC is not the last hope for the genre, but it is the last hope for certain older players. I agree with that. I think for certain people it is the last hope, but I do agree with Roar. I don't think it is. I think even if Ashes fails, which we can always talk about what that even looks like, or what a failure of Intrepid would look like as far as the game releasing and what that, again, looks like. I mean, usually it's always monetary purpose, but I think it really could succeed worldwide, 100%. Like, I think Ashes is going to be a very big success worldwide.
So is it the
winning
last
cures
hope?
everything? Exactly.
No, I just think it's the current hope.
I think right now it is.
Roar's right.
I'm looking in the space at other games. All the popular MMORPG games are 8, 10, 12 years old. Not all of them, of course. There's some that people still enjoy, but most of the popular ones are quite a bit older. There's nothing really new coming to the space. Like, if you look at the last 2 launches of some of the bigger games, like Throne and Liberty, which was only a Korean launch, it hasn't done its full launch yet. Very unliked in Korea right now. And then you look at what New World is doing, very unliked by just about everybody that's played it right now. I mean, outside of Lost Ark, that's that came out 5 years ago. There hasn't really been a good launch. So yeah, until
I always thought no one was like so much younger. Like it's kind of nuts, right?
until
Voices
people
can
get
change.
their heads out of their asses and make a good game. I mean, this is the one that's coming down the pipeline in the near future.
Great painter though.
Okay, so I am definitely not one of those all or nothing kind of people. So as hyped as I am for Ashes, I would not go so far as to say it's the last hope for everybody when it comes to MMOs. But for me and Jamie, I know it's kind of the last hope for us because we've been wanting something like this for so long, and nothing has been scratching that itch. So I'm sure if Ashes fails, and like we're, all of us would be pretty bummed about that. We would never invest this kind of time into another MMO again, as far as like following the development and that kind of thing goes. It doesn't mean we won't ever try other MMOs, but this is like our horse that we're backing, I guess is how I'll say that. But no, I don't think it's the last hope for the MMO genre, because there's always going to be other people trying to, add their ideas into the space and things. And there's not only going to be Intrepid Studios that has this passion project that they want to work on. There's going to be other people as well. So, I mean, you might get more games later on that are going to be just as good, and if maybe in a different way, but still are under the MMO tag. So, but yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
What do you think people who, like us, who have liked elements of MMOs in the past but have been underserved by them, what do you think they're playing right now?
Well, currently I'm not playing anything. So, I mean, I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 a bit. I haven't played it in a little while, but there's obviously games I play, but there's nothing that I'm consistent with. It's kind of one of those things where I'm like, oh, like I have a few hours of time to kill. Like,
I'm currently playing World of Warcraft.
I'll jump into The Sims 4 and build a house or something. Like that's my go-to right now.
Okay, my answer to this one is very simple. No, it is not the last hope. One, it's not only the last hope that we know is in development.
Dude, I need to get that soundbite that's like the ooh, brother, ooh. What is that, brother?
and two, I don't think it will please everybody. We've already heard that it's not an MMO for everyone, and I know I said they're going to make content that pleases a lot of people, but that doesn't mean that it will be the last MMO that's in any kind of like serious development. For example, there's other games that we don't know much about, but we know that are coming. We know ZeniMax are making an MMO at the minute. They've been working on that, I think, since around about, if not earlier than 2019. So that's 5 years in the making. And no disrespect to Intrepid and Steven, but they've made an MMO before. So, it might not be your favorite MMO ESO or something like that, but they've done it. They've been there, done that. Obviously, we had recent news, relatively recent news about Guild Wars 3. Again, another company that's been there, done that. And maybe that could be good. Then there's like sneaky MMOs like Chrono Odyssey, even something
Quinfall.
like Bellatorus could come out of nowhere for all I know. Arcade 2, obviously.
Lord of the Rings.
Some of those are action combat, and I know maybe you are all Tab Target enjoys, but the Riot MMO is probably a decade away. I don't really want to mention it, but Blizzard could be making another MMO. They've just talking about unionizing or something like that. Maybe they'll do a WoW 2 at some point. You never know. Probably unlikely because I'm expecting that game to be making an absolute shed ton of money.
Right. Yeah.
There are other MMOs. Whether or not there'll be an MMO that is doing it the way that Intrepid and Steven are doing it, I don't know. Is there a game that's not being made by a massive company putting profits first? I'm not sure about that, but that doesn't mean they can't make good games and good good products. Probably good profits as well is the ideal goal there. But I think there will be other MMOs that will probably capture a more theme parky audience, which might capture more of the player base right now, the MMO player base right now. But Ashes of Creation obviously is a game that is doing things.
Dude, Burns, why you look so serious, dude? You're like you are burning it. Like you're like, I feel like if I'm looking at Burns and he's looking back at me, I feel like he's like in my eyes. Like, I feel like this is the face of a guy where you just started going in the kitchen, open up the refrigerator, start eating the yogurt, and that was the yogurt that he was planning on eating like 5 minutes from now, and I got to it first, and he's looking at me with those eyes, like, it's just like, bro, was this yours? I'm so sorry, bro. It's like, what? Don't be mad. I'll go get you another one. Like, that's the face, bro. But no, okay. Jay Oddity is, man, he's on point. There is a lot of other MMOs in the works, but I feel because the sentiment, what we've been seeing, right? We saw, like, you know, trailers on the Quinfall. We've seen the stuff on PAX Day. The stuff we have seen from Chrono Odyssey has just been like cinematic trailers that we haven't really seen too much of the gameplay there. We really don't know too much about the systems in that game either. And I think most of the time there's just, you know, it's like Asmongold says, the more people don't know about an MMO, the more excited they are. The more they know about an MMO, the less excited they are about it. It's just how people are. Daybreak has said that they're making a new EverQuest and it's not going to get shut down like EQ Next. Well, again, it's because the MMO genre is completely and utterly stagnant. You know, we have Ghostcrawler making their MMO, which I personally really don't have any interest in because we really haven't seen much about that MMO, but the principles and the way Greg talks about the game with like the shard, it just, to me, that feels like a combat version of Palia. Like, I don't know how interested I'm really going to be in a game like that personally. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
The right way. That's, you know, they're making a game that feels like an artistic endeavor rather than a product merely to be purchased and played through. Now, whether or not they'll succeed, the jury's even out on that one, right? So if it is their last hope, then our last hope is pinned on an unknown, basically. We don't really know if they're going to achieve what they've said. So
Bergen, dude, what's going on, man?
It's not the last hope. Because if it is, that's a bit of a depressing thought to me. So, yeah, they're making the game in the right way. I hope it's a good MMO.
I mean, the fact that we literally have the fact that I have to go back to World of Warcraft really bums me out. Like, it really, really bums me. And I talked to Roar about it. I mean, I was talking to Wagsy. Me and Wagsy have been playing together, but we were actually playing SOD last night. We made new characters and we were just leveling together. And honestly, like I've always said, even playing a shitty MMO, and I'm not saying that SOD is a shitty MMO, but I'm just saying, like, when you actually are playing a game with someone and you're questing together, you're helping each other out, you're going through little, you know, things here and there, ups and downs. We were going to die and we're like running away and shit. Like, it's just like, that's what to me, like, MMOs are about, right? Like, MMOs are all about connections and you know, being in a community with people and playing a game with people. And MMOs are very awesome with that fact. And, you know, as much as, like, I always talk about WoW or whatever, like, WoW still does that for me. Like, I can still play WoW and enjoy myself, you know, just playing with a couple of buddies. And I think that's ultimately, like, what I need to sustain myself until Alpha 2 comes out. Because I think about that, right? And I think about how played out I am when it comes to WoW, that it still can bring me joy. I can't imagine that same feeling when I get my hands on a completely new game like Ashes that I am super excited for, and that I am going to have all of my friends, like all the content creators, all playing this game with me, and I can play with them. That's going to feel so amazing. I'll be playing something other than Rogue for the first time since BFA. I'm actually playing Ret Paladin. So I've been maining a Warlock for years, so I decided to change it up. That's why I want Ashes to succeed, to bring back the gang who quit MMOs a while back. Yeah, there's actually some people that I talked to that used to raid in Final Fantasy 14 that stopped. And they're actually looking for, like, another MMO. I don't know if Ashes is going to be that game for them, but I do know that there's some people in some communities that, you know, they've just stopped playing their home MMO and they've just been like a vagabond, just kind of searching out there to see. But it's a wasteland right now. It feels like a wasteland. So I understand where the sentiment is coming from.
I'm not going to pin all my hopes and dreams on it because Otherwise, we're in a deep, dark valley, and maybe there's no way out.
I mean, you never know. At this very moment, I think it's the best thing we've seen. It's best sales pitch, so to speak, that we've gotten. But you don't know what Ghostcrawler's MMO is going to do. You don't know what League of Legends is going to do if they ever get that thing off the ground. And you never know when the next Stephen Sharif pops up and decides he's going to throw his entire life savings into a new MMO to get
That's
what
also
he
true.
wants. But I think in the next 5 to 10 years, I would say Ashes is probably our best chance of getting that MMO that we really want.
I hope that it's not, but I've always kind of felt like it kind of is, from my perspective, being like a more old school MMO player. Intrepid Studios seems to be a lot different of a company than what we're used to, especially for MMO companies. They kind of remind me of Larian Studios a little bit. They're very open with their development. And Steven also seems like a gamer versus a CEO, I guess you could say. So that gives me hope because, yeah, I haven't really been engaging, let's say, religiously with MMOs for a long time now. And Ashes has pulled me back in. And I mean, I appreciate all of you Ashes content creators reaching out to me and like making me still part of the community because I haven't covered the game in like a year and a half. But I used to be obsessed with covering this game. I've done like 25 videos or something like that. So
We're always going to put
it
you
is my
back, Wolf.
last hope, but I hope it's not the last hope because hopefully I'm still alive for another 67 years or 60 to 70 years on this planet. So,
Hey, and I'm sorry to get off topic, but I wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah, hit me.
In your last video, you said, you know, if Ashes dies, so does my channel.
Yeah.
Why did you give that disclaimer? Did somebody bring something up or say something, or I just thought that was kind
No.
of weird. That was kind of a weird change of tone to just throw that in there. Like, hey, once the game's gone, I'm gone. I was like, whoa, that's kind of dark.
Yeah, good question. I put that in there. Yeah, I've worked on my script several days, and I questioned if I was going to put that in there because, yeah, it was a bit of a tone shift, but I love the idea of Ashes, and that's why I make content. Because if the idea, the founding principles actually make it in game, I mean, it may be flawed, maybe not as good, maybe not perfectly ideal, but they're at least making
Osiris,
it
dude, I'm
toward
doing
those
great, man.
ideals.
I'm gonna pick up my
I
wife
think
from the
it's
airport
worth
tonight.
Trying to spread the good word of what
That's why my
they're
channel
doing.
exists.
Yeah, cool. And that's it. Like, and I make enough money in my job. I, have enough other hobbies that I find
The
interesting.
doctor's not looking for the career to YouTube shift.
No, not at this point. Not.
Heck no. He makes good
best
money.
Case scenario, I'd ever go down to like part time, but we're a long ways off from that. I got a lot of loans to pay off, but no. So I make Ashes content because I'm inspired by the things that Intrepid is shooting for.
Yeah.
What do you
That's a
think? Is Ashes the last hope for MMO?
Let me see. If Ashes became dead, what project are you going to pick? Or where would you go? That's a very good question, to be honest with you. Like I feel like with the community that we're all building here, like all of the Ashes, like Burns, myself, Jamie, Phantom X, Rives, DeQuino, just all the content creators, right? We're all trying to build a community and get everything going. And I feel like with Ashes, if it does come out and become successful, where do certain people go? I remember when WildStar was a thing and there were content creators for that game. And then when WildStar basically finished, so did they. They put so much of their effort and time into WildStar that when inevitably just got shut down, like they just were completely and utterly demotivated to just keep going. I really don't know like how I would feel in that way if Intrepid were to be a dead project or just stop or, whatever the case is, because there isn't anything on the horizon that I'm currently looking forward to. So it'd be a very dystopian time if that was the case, right? So I try not to think about that, but well, I don't know. I really can't give a good answer. GTA 6, maybe. I don't know. Like I would probably try to go somewhere or do something, but I honestly feel if I had a hard conversation with myself and there was truly nothing that excited me as much as Ashes did, there'd be no point. There'd be no reason. Like I'm not wanting to do this because of anything other than just because I enjoy making content for Ashes. If that goes out the window, then I don't know what I would enjoy after that. So
Also, I'm doing things a little differently for next episode. In the sneak peek, you'll hear me ask the questions I pose to our guests. Let me know what your answer is to these future questions, and I might highlight it at the end of episode 2. This coming Friday the 16th, after the AMA, I'll be live with Zealand at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 8 p.m. in America's time zone, Central Time. Then on Saturday, I'll be live with Lude Lloyd at 5:30 Eastern Time, so come hang with us. Thanks for watching. How do you feel about them bringing back the sale of Alpha 2 keys?
Right, I wouldn't have bought all of the add-ons. I would have just bought the Alpha 2 key.
How long is too long for Alpha 2?
We are already being accused of being the next Star Citizen.
Because you want to be aware of how much you're showing. Because if you show everything throughout the alpha, if people test everything,
Just makes complete sense for a lot of players to drop off.
I did some quick numbers for you.
With the key giveaways and that sort of thing. So I would probably say maybe people who actually show up, probably about
dude, honestly, I usually watch Bespoke with my wife, because usually they come out on Sundays, and so my wife watches this stuff. I did text her since she was going to be in late today. She's just like, well, as long as you watch it with me tomorrow, then we're fine. I was like, yeah, I'll watch it with you again tomorrow. But she loves watching the Bespoke stuff. Burns, I'm so glad you finally were able to pump out these episodes. Hopefully we have a good season of episodes, maybe 10-ish videos. We'll see. Let me see. What if this game will not be for you? Well, if this game truly wasn't something that I wasn't going to be interested in, I wouldn't have become a content creator for it. Me knowing the systems, me knowing the combat, me knowing the fact of the PvX, again, I am not trying to shape Ashes into a game that it isn't supposed to be, right? I'm trying to make Ashes better in the vein that it currently is. So, and again, there's always people with agendas that are like, oh, I'm going to, become a content for Ashes and make it as much like World of Warcraft as I can, or make it as much as BDO as I can, or make it as much as New World as I can. I'm not of that opinion. I think it's, for me, like, I just want to make Ashes the best Ashes it could be. But no, I think this game is definitely for me. Like I said, I enjoy PvP. Like I do. This is why I've also said on stream where I kind of want to be a gatherer, because, gatherers are probably going to tend to go into more little PvP skirmishes more than usual. So, and I want to be around for that. If I was truly trying to be a care bear, then I wouldn't even probably go for the gathering profession as a main. But yeah, great video, Burns, dude. It's always so glad to have this. Right now I'm watching some anime seasons and they're all like ending, so it's like I have nothing to look forward to now, because on the weekends usually like My Hero comes out on Saturdays and they've been like taking breaks every other week or whatever. So now I have something to look forward to on Sundays, like from now on. So it's just something for me to look forward to. Let me see. We are L2 player, but not our bro Vlhadus. He played most of his life WoW. Yes. And again, like, I think a lot of WoW players have to understand that what Ashes is, and this is why I want to have this conversation with Metagoblin, because as a WoW player, you're very almost and I played the clip from the Shawshank Redemption. You're very institutionalized in your thinking of what an MMORPG is, especially when that MMORPG is very, one-dimensional. Like, I talked to Roar about it. Like, to me, all World of Warcraft is a dungeon and raid simulator. That's it. There's really no more to WoW than just that. It's a very one-dimensional way to look at an MMORPG. MMORPGs are supposed to be super multifaceted, right? There's supposed to be many different reasons why you play an MMORPG. Now, I know we all, love certain aspects of MMORPGs, right? And that's where we tend to lean into. But, for me, like, all Warcraft is to me and the friends that I play with is a dungeon and raid simulator. That's it. Yeah, waiting for your L2 stream. I know a lot of people have been wanting me to play Lineage 2. Like, I just feel like there's no reason for me to play Lineage 2 because Ashes is so close. Like, I would rather leave feedback or give impressions on Ashes than on a game that it was based off of, right? Like, I'd rather just do that. You see the main reason why I can't bother with WoW and Hello. Well, again, like, WoW to a lot of people is very one-dimensional. Some people, all they do is raid. Some people, all they do is battlegrounds. Some people, all they do is transmog runs. Like, everybody has their reasoning to play an MMORPG. But yeah, at this point, like, we're just so close. Like, we're so close, we can utterly taste it. We can utterly taste it. So, yeah. You see, run with the plus until you get tired of it and come back next season. Yeah, that's basically it for a lot of people. Personally, I'm still on the fence with Ashes. It's always on open world PvP that is holding me back from being fully on Ashes. Well, and that's the thing, right? Is the fact that I think people, and this is a lot of WoW people, a lot of from my community or my old community, is on the fence about too, because open world PvP in WoW sucks donkey balls. It is the worst experience, like, of open world PvP. It just is. So for anyone with the WoW brain, and you just mention, oh yeah, this game has open world PvP, your mind immediately goes to the shittiness that is World of Warcraft. Ashes is doing a lot of things about open world PvP that World of Warcraft hasn't even thought of. The flagging system being one. Let me see. Hello everyone. Spaghetti is amazing, and so are you. Oh, well, thank you, man. Let me see. I'm not playing on any just use Rens and PvP server for my stream, but I didn't really play on it. Let me see. Nemesis, what's going on, man? Yes, so the good news was I actually am working out a date to have Metagoblin, who is a WoW content creator, on my 1v1. So that's going to be really, really exciting. He's a big deal. He's a big content creator for the WoW community. And I think having him, because he made a video about Ashes of Creation, and he doesn't really know Ashes of Creation too well. So I think talking to someone like myself that knows the game pretty extensively and that can give him a more realistic vision and picture of what Ashes is what I'm going to try to do. Because I think there's a lot of times there's like the game of telephone where people, you know, try to explain Ashes in a very broken way to people. They think they know the game, but they really don't. And then bad information just gets passed down and passed down and passed down. Right. So yeah, I'm really, really excited about that. Let me see the Ashes deep dive. Tell him to strap in. Yeah. Well, there's a little short video that I wanted to react to as well from our boy Rive. And there's a video that once I'm done with stream today, I'm going to be working on my video on the talent system for Ashes, because there's just some things that I feel like are, you know, just some fundamental things that I want to talk about regarding that system. And I talked a lot about it yesterday when I was on with the Golden Feather. If you watched yesterday's Golden, you basically saw the video. Like, you saw the long and extended version of the basis of my video. But yeah, I'm gonna go. The videos are probably gonna be like maybe like 7 to 10 minutes long. I haven't really figured all that out yet, but yeah. Let me see. Yeah, I've seen so much misinformation from different non-Ashes CCs. Exactly my point. Like, there's a lot of people that just talk about the game in the completely wrong context, or they're explaining systems completely wrong, you know? And I think that's kind of bad, because then if you think you know correct information and then you start echoing that information to your friends and other content creators within your own community and your other game, like, it's just going to get worse, more deteriorated information, like, as it keeps going, right? So let me see. Oh, nice. I'm curious on the WoW player's perspective on Ashes, even though it's a good chance they won't like it. Well, I think it's just about providing a more realistic expectation, right? That's basically all I'm trying to do, especially for someone like Meta. All right, let's watch our boy Rive real quick.
Ashes of Creation is going to have incredible build diversity. Where do I think this build variety is going to come from? First, the skill trees. There are 3 combat related.
The skill trees. Interesting. So, sorry. See, active, passive skill for each primary archetype, weapon skills, universal skills. Yes, so there's going to be a talent tree for weapon trees. There's going to be a universal talent tree. There's going to be an active and passive talent tree, this is primarily what my video is going to be about is the active and passive skills. That's the majority of what my video is going to be about.
Skill trees, the skill tree for your chosen archetype, a unique skill tree for every weapon, and keep in mind there are a lot of weapons and every archetype can use every weapon, and there is also a universal skill tree. So far the skill trees are fairly well fleshed out and appear to give a fair amount of build variety, at least for low-level alpha gameplay.
I completely disagree, but just my perspective.
Especially when you factor in the interplay between the archetype and weapon skill trees. For example, in the mage skill tree, if you wanted to focus more on one of the spell schools of fire, frost, or lightning, that is possible. Or if you want to focus on the interplay between the schools and the combos that are available with that, you can do that. Or if you want to focus more on AoE instead of single target, that is also possible. And again, these are early implementations of the class skill trees. They will probably get more complex over time. And
I hope so.
The weapon skill trees are equally elaborate and will get even more elaborate over time. For example, in the wand skill tree, you could choose to focus more on proc effects that synergize with your archetype, or extended weapon combos, or more overall weapon combo damage. And then we have augments, the system that really could ramp up the build diversity in Ashes. But first we have today's sponsor, which is Pogo Sticks. Who doesn't like to bounce around on phallic-shaped objects? Pogopalooza is in Pittsburgh this year and is the best place to find extreme pogoing action. Flips, high jumps, freestyling, and everything you could ever want. Pogo Sticks. They look like a dick. Thanks, Pogo Sticks. After the skill trees, you then have augments, which is something we haven't seen yet. And is part of the 64 class system of Ashes of Creation. Augments unlock at level 25 when you choose your secondary archetype, which forms your class. There are 8 secondary archetypes, each with 4 different schools of augmentation, which allows access to a total of 32 different augmentation schools. In total, across 8 archetypes, there might be a total of somewhere around 8,960 different spell variations in the entire game, if we assume each primary archetype has 35 total skills that they can choose to spec into. And keep in mind, that is just from the class archetype augments. There are also augments available from your race choice, your religious progression, and your social organization progression. So with augments and the math behind augments, there is insane build customization on paper.
On paper. And I think in the talent systems, we really haven't seen much as far as the passives go. I would love to see more. I mean, I think we've seen more of the abilities, but again, if you look at a typical MMORPG, right? As you level, you hit level 7, you're given like an ability, 2 abilities or whatever, right? You hit level 9, you get 2 or 3 more abilities, right? So like Ashes is going to do it in a way where you just earn talent points, and then you can put your talent point to earn an ability, right? So abilities aren't technically earned by just leveling; they are earned by you picking. Or you slot in your talent point to select what abilities you want to go with, right? So that is a level of, you could say, like customization, but like in what ways can you customize that ability, and comparing that to other talent systems from like other games, right? So that to me is what I feel lacks from the current ability passive tree that Intrepid has been showing.
Important thing to keep in mind about these alternative augments is that the same augments might not be available on every server, as each server might have different religious and social organization progression. Then, just like how every class can use every single weapon, every class can use every single armor type. There are 3 armor types: light armor, which focuses more on magical damage mitigation, heavy armor, which focuses on physical damage mitigation, and medium armor, which has some benefits of light and heavy armor and might also have some damage increases applied to it, to not just be defensive in nature. Then, in addition, when building your class, keeping in mind any potential combos that can be delivered via Ashes of Creation's take on a skill combo system might be important as well. I plan to dedicate an entire video talking about this combo system, wherein, for example, a chilled status condition can be converted to a frozen status condition, which in essence is converting a soft CC into a hard CC. If you need a guild for Ashes of Creation, be sure to watch my Genesis guild overview video linked in the description, where I outline the plans for my guild. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.
It was a good video. Like, I think for me, because I'm literally in the process of like having it all like done in my head, and have like a script and everything like that. There are some things that, let me go ahead and link you guys the video. Give it a like, sub to Rive if you haven't. He always makes really great Ashes videos. The problem with the passive trees, in my opinion, is if you go look at like any of the talent trees from like other games, right? Like whether they're ARPGs or MMORPGs, World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, anytime you're working with like a single ability, there is usually multiple ways for you to customize that ability. And I just really haven't seen like that much. So like if we go to the Ashes wiki, I'll show you a little bit. I'll give you a little bit of a preview of what kind of video I'm going to be making. So let's look at the fighter showcase, or the fighter class in the talent tree. I already told him he fucked up by not accepting the trees sponsorship. Bad move on his part. Well, you know, trees, they're dicks, man. Like they're very like, they make you sign these weird contracts and stipulations and how you have to talk about them and everything like that. I think he just got more flexibility with pogo sticks, you know. Let me see. We saw the short bow passive with the ranger, right? So yeah, I am more referring to the ability and passive talent tree. I'm not talking about the universal tree, which we haven't even seen yet, or the weapon tree, because I think the weapon tree is actually on a better direction than the ability and talent tree is. So looking here, right? Again, if you're a WoW player, and you look at like the WoW tree, and you're looking at like Final Verdict, or you're looking like if you're a Ret Paladin, or if you're looking at like Hand of Gul'dan, you know, called Dreadstalkers, if you're a Warlock or a Demonology Warlock, you can type in on your talent tree like called Dreadstalkers, and there's like anywhere between 4 to 6 passives that influence or even change how your called Dreadstalkers works, right? You don't have that here, right? And again, this is the thing too, I'm going to mention in my video. I'm also talking about a completely finished talent tree in a finished game, you know, regarding that system, to a completely fundamental, not finished alpha stated game. Totally get it. I totally understand. So, but I want to give this feedback because just like if you were building a house, right? Would you keep building the house knowing the foundation you're building upon is messed up? No. And I've had people tell me like, Vlad, you're being so overcritical. Like, you know, just wait until, you know, they show more or they do more to the talent. By then it may be too late. You know, like giving stuff early on like this is very helpful because they're probably in talks. And this is, again, another thing you can probably think of as well, is looking at this and then looking at the Bard ability and passive tree. I think is like, this is like template 1, and the Bard ability and passive tree is like template 2, because those two talent trees look completely different from one another. But again, as an example, if you have a move like Blitz, right? How can this ability be customized at the base level? We're not talking augments here. We're talking just between levels 1 to 25. How could I, as a player, look at Blitz and be like, oh, that's a really good base ability, but is there any cool passives that I can add to this to make it better? Right? Okay, I can do Raging Blitz, which generates an extra 20 combat momentum. Okay, that's okay. Or I can do, oh, this is not even about Blitz. That's it. Just one ability. Like I find that to be like a little boring from a customizing perspective. For someone like me who really enjoys synergies, not just with a singular ability, but also different abilities that can potentially synergize with each other. That's the thing that I feel these trees lack. Isn't truly like the abilities. Like the abilities, base abilities, I think are actually really fine. The main problem with this is the passives. There are great examples of a good passive, which is, I think, right here. We have Lunging Assault, right? The base skill, you spend 15 combat momentum to lunge in a direction, a short distance, and perform an upward swing upon arrival, dealing damage to enemies in front of you. You are immune to hard crowd control effects while performing this ability. So there is this ability that is called Recharging Lunge Assault. So this passive allows you to gain an additional charge and generates 5 additional combat momentum when dealing damage to 1 or more enemies. This is a great example of a good passive. But this is just, again, 1, right? So what are we trying to do here? Like, as far as this tree goes, are we just trying to add only a couple of options? Because again, like looking at games like even like Lost Ark has the tripod system. The tripod system to me isn't, it's very basic. Like, I don't really find a lot of like excitement or enjoyment from customizing in Lost Ark because it's just so basic. And when I look at the talent trees here, like I find them to be quite basic, right? So you think of a move like Exert, right? This is like one of the main abilities for the fighter, right? This particular ability, you consume your combat momentum rapidly, gaining 20% increased attack, movement speed, and immunity to disabling effects while active. Must have at least 20 combat momentum to activate, and the effect ends when all combat momentum is fully depleted. Great ability. So there's 2 passives that can influence or change Exert to be a little bit different. So we have this one, which is Unstoppable Exert. Exert additionally breaks all hard control effects on the caster and may be used anytime while under a hard control effect. That's a great passive. Great passive. And then you have, let me see, Reinvigorating Exert. Exert additionally refreshes all ability cooldowns by 1% per point of combat momentum the caster has upon completion. Another really, really great ability. But again, I haven't seen a single passive that either just improves your class as a base or has any kind of synergies with any other of the abilities. All of these passives are very one-dimensional in the sense of just the singular ability it's augmenting or customizing. If you look at, again, a lot of other talent trees from other video games, there is a lot of cross-pollination of like having a passive ability that influences multiple skills that gives them, multiple secondary passives to make them, be better in certain niche scenarios, by making a single target a little bit more AoE focused, or an AoE ability becoming more single target focused, or you can have a dot becoming maybe a single ability becoming into a dot, like that kind of stuff, right? Like, I haven't seen anything like that, and the majority of these talent trees aren't talents. They're just abilities, right? So I want to see more passives that have not only the really great examples of like Exert here or the Recharging Lunge Assault, but I want to see it done in a way that actually has a little bit of cross-pollination with other skills, but also more customization towards a single skill. Like, again, I was looking at World of Warcraft, and again, when I was looking at Call of Dreadstalkers on in my Warlock tree, there's like six different passives that literally influence my Call of Dreadstalkers ability. You know what I'm trying to say? And out of those 6, I think two of the 6 actually influence not just Call of Dreadstalkers, but my Hand of Gul'dan, which is another ability of mine. So you have that kind of like really in depth of like, oh, like I want this passive because if I'm a fan of this ability and this ability, this one passive is going to be a really big powerhouse to my rotation. I love that stuff. I love that very geeky, very cool kinds of things. So that's the thing that I feel like these particular trees lack. And I honestly don't know, and this is going to be probably something I'm going to have to test with, but just off of what I've heard from people and what I just feel as a gut first look. Every time when I show this talent tree to somebody that doesn't really know Ashes, or even people that know Ashes look at this and they're completely and utterly confused. Where do I start? Is this my starting point here? What do these lines mean? Like, can I put if I'm level 1 and I hit level 2 and I earn my first talent point, can I put a point here at Blitz? Or can I start here? Can I start here? Like, where do I start? Right? So I think this talent tree, and then what are these? Are these just like abilities that you don't need to like go in any sort of progression with? You can just get from the right hand side? Or are these just given to you like automatically? Like, I feel like there's just no uniformity with this tree, and it's very confusing. So right off rip, like it just doesn't give as much customization as players think. And again, I know you're going to be able to wear any gear armor you want. I know you can wield any weapon you want. I know there's going to be weapon trees, a universal tree, and this tree, and then the augment system. But you have to understand too, the augment system, you have one choice to make. So you have 4 options, right, that you're going to be able to do, but you're not going to be able to select all 4 options to augment. At least I don't think you're going to. So when you hit level 25 and you have like, Brutal Cleave can be augmented in 4 different ways, because every secondary archetype will have 4 schools of augmentation. So there's 4 options in how you can customize Brutal Cleave. If let's say you're a mage, you have the school of teleportation, you have the school of fire, frost, and lightning, right? So, but you can't, at least, again, that could change. We don't know. Maybe it's something that they do add, but at least to my knowledge, the augment system is something you don't have to allocate a talent point into. But I also think you're not going to be able to select all 4 augmentations for one skill. I don't think that's going to be the case. Like, you're not going to be able to, I want Brutal Cleave to be, I'm going to put something into the teleport augment and also the fire augment. I don't think that's what you're going to be able to do. I think you're going to choose one of 4 options. So you need this base tree to have more passives for customization. Like, that's just the reality. Chris Score, dude, thank you so much for the follow, man. Thank you. And welcome. Red, dude, what's going on, man? What's good news? So I reached out to Metagoblin, who is a WoW content creator, and we are working out a date for him to come on my 1v1 and talk about Ashes of Creation and MMOs in general. That is the good news. Let me see. I hope they change it to make you have to spend a point to augment. I agree. Again, when I saw on the wiki, let me see. When I saw on the wiki, when I looked up augments, I literally could have sworn that it was going to take a talent point for you to spend to augment an ability. But if you look here, abilities do not cost skill points, which are talent points. It was previously stated that certain augments will have more expense required on the skill point side. Again, so now augments just don't require any kind of a talent point. So because they don't require any kind of a talent point, this is why I doubt you're going to be able to augment all 4 schools into a singular ability. So the augment system isn't really going to be as customizing as people think, right? So if that system can't be as customizable, then the base ability and talent, or the ability and passive tree, needs to have that customization in there. They just need to. And this is why, like, I'm making my video, because this is the time to give that feedback to Intrepid. If you look at it, let's count all of the passive trees, or all of the passive points. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's it. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 abilities. So we have maybe like 1 to 2 options of customization per skill, or 0 options for customization. Like, again, we look at Battlecry, there's no passives to influence Battlecry at all. Like, there's no customizing Battlecry. Like, Battlecry is just, it is what it is. You have something like, well, and even, again, this is a passive that is a work in progress. It's not even available. Leap Strike. There's no passives to customize Leap Strike any further. Like, it's just, you want this ability, you put a talent point in there, and that's it. See, I don't expect to be able to apply all 4 schools onto one skill, but there are still 32 choices there, which is insane. Well, yes, but I mean, is there really 32 choices there? Because your secondary choice is going to be a very weighted decision. I would think that you have 32 choices if you had a very free-flowing, like, oh, if I want to be Ranger, I can just go to my node, almost like World of Warcraft, and switch to Ranger Rogue instantly. But that truly isn't the case, right? So most people are going to stick with their secondary augment probably a little bit more permanently than just switching on the fly kind of thing. And again, I do agree, having 32 skills of customization is pretty cool, but only being able to select one of the 4, okay, that's fine, but we need more customization here. Like that's what I really truly believe. Like, you just need more customization. I wonder if it will be choices like you choose to augment, or is it just auto augments? No, I don't think it's going to auto augment. It's completely and utterly your choice. Let me see. You think we won't be able to apply any one of the 32 variants of the augment? No, you're only gonna be able to apply one of the 4, right? So it's not like you're gonna be a Ranger and have like 32 options as a Ranger. Like Ranger, every primary archetype has 4 schools of augmentation. That's it. Let me see, 8 different archetypes, 4 schools each, and you got to pick the best one for your build. And if that's the only one, choose for the time build rather than per skill, then we will all have other augments, and we will have gear and party synergy. Even having more complexity in the skills would make the entire system way too complex. We would have a PoE MMO in our hands. I don't really think so. Like, again, like, you can have like a good talent tree with a little bit more customizing of the abilities. Again, I feel like armor and your basic attack isn't truly going to influence your abilities that much. Like, abilities are abilities. Like, your basic attack is your basic attack. Your combos are going to be an extension of your abilities, but those are 2 separate systems. So I want these abilities to have more customizable options for players, right? And again, this is all your choice. Like, if you want to pick Exert, this is going to cost a talent point. If you want these 2 options, that's 2 additional talent points needed, right? So my thing is that let's say there is 6 passives to enhance Exert, right? That means, because again, you have a finite amount of talent points to play with, that you can have a small amount of abilities, but each ability to be heavy customizable to your kit. But that means you don't have a wide array of abilities for every situation. Maybe you're more speccing into very niche circumstances because that's just your particular like play style, right? So for me, like, I don't know, like I want there to feel like there's more choice. So I think if you're looking at this and you're like, wow, having 2 options is really, really great. Like, I'm sorry, like, I just don't think that's, I think for someone like me, and again, this is for me specifically, I like there to feel like I have options when it comes to my kit. Because then I feel like, well, the real customization comes down to, if I'm a fighter, well, I selected these abilities here and you selected these abilities here. And that's really the only difference. Like, I would rather have it to where it's like, oh, I did select the same abilities you did, but I got 2 passives in this, 1 passive here. I picked a completely different school of augmentation for this other ability. Like, that's what I kind of want. You know what I mean? I want it to feel really dynamic in the sense of the passive and ability tree, not just, oh, well, I selected that ability and you didn't. Like, that to me, I just feel like it's going to get very boring for someone like myself. Because I feel like the customization is way too light. You see, I think Vlad is in a real minority with this preference because I see a ton of people getting really turned off by the overcomplication of the system. People are getting turned off to this talent tree being overly complicated. Dude, I mean, no offense. I've talked to so many people in Discords. I've talked to different guild leaders. I've talked to officers. Every single time that I've literally have talked to anybody about the talent trees, I ask, are you excited about the talent tree? And most people, like, the most positive answer I've gotten is meh. The talent tree looks meh. Most times it's usually negative sentiments that I get from people more so than positive. Overcomplicated is something I haven't even heard from people. I haven't heard a single person tell me, man, that talent tree is so complicated. Like, I have not one person I have talked to, and I've talked to a lot of people about this particular system. So I feel like if this feels overcomplicated to you now, wait till we get up to level 50. Wait until they start expanding this tree, like, as its current design. Because I feel like this, just extrapolate this 4x. Like, that's literally what we're going to get. And the reason why it's going to look crazy is because most MMOs don't lump in their base abilities into a tree. You earn these by leveling. So this looks very cluttered because there's actual base skills here. But this is what Intrepid is kind of experimenting with right now. This is what they're kind of wanting. Let me see. Sorry, I just got here, but are you planning on bringing that up in the AMA? No, probably not in the AMA. The AMA to me this isn't the time to really bring that up for that particular thing. I really want the AMA to focus on Alpha 2 and all the stuff for Alpha 2. I'm going to make a video on this, Nathan, because I just feel like, the combat designers, the class designers, they're probably, they've been probably experimenting with these trees. But yeah, I am all for the abilities being lumped into a tree of sorts. But I also feel like to avoid the confusion is instead of having one gigantic tree, it might just be better to have an ability tree and a passive tree. So they're kind of separated in that sense. But if you separate them, I don't know if that'll work. I have a vision of what I think could actually work really well, but it just depends on if that is what Intrepid wants to do. Again, I think it would be really cool to have a mini talent tree. So, like, as an example, like for Brutal Cleave, like if I click on Brutal Cleave, it'll bring down like a little, like, think of like a line coming down here, this ability being connected here, another line coming over here, and let's say there's another square box right here. So we have Brutal Cleave, and there's 5 passive options on how you want to customize Brutal Cleave. And I think each skill should have anywhere between 2 to maybe 5 passives of customization. That's what I agree. Like, I think having because some skills, like I said, based on the skill, you may not need a lot of customization with, but there's some skills that could actually be, heavy customizable. So for me, I'm just trying to be, under the impression that it's like, hey, if I click on this skill, I have 5 passive options that I can go into Brutal Cleave with. And then if I unclick the ability, the talent tree goes away. That would be a much cleaner design. And then I also don't know either if starting anywhere, like the way this tree is, and I've heard people say it, it's like, oh yeah, you can just start here at Blitz and then work your way this way, work your way up or whatever. And it's like there's like multiple starting paths. I don't know if that's a good I'm fine with like different ways to go, but I feel like the way this tree layout is, it's not it. Like it's just it's not, you know, it's not it. Let me see. Yep, to me it sounds like PoE's tree, and that scares the shit out of people. Well, I feel like if they keep this design, it's going to end up being, or it's going to feel like a PoE tree. Again, we just counted 17 skills. Steven says, like, we look at each class is going to have anywhere between 30 to 40 skills, right? So where, is it still loading? 1 second. So if that is the, let's see where I know Steven has set that. Of course. Okay, that's not going to work. But yeah, I mean, most of my Ashes people know that we've heard Steven say that many times. Is like each primary class is going to have 30 to 40 skills. So if you're going to make a talent tree that's going to have active skills in it, then it's going to very much look like a PoE tree. What I am trying to do is simplify it in a way that is more manageable by the eye. Like that's what I'm trying to do. Like I'm trying to look at this tree in the sense of like, okay, this is where it's currently at, like at a level 15, you know, like a level 15 kind of way, right? But how can we simplify this to where it doesn't look so overly complicated to the regular person probably that's going to try Ashes of Creation? And the only way that I can do that is if you were to make just a ability tree and then click on each ability and it brings up like a separate little UI of like your passive customizations you can do with that singular ability, and even one next to it that has an augment choice, right? So once you're like level 25, 26, 27, you have each skill that you can have basic customization with, and then your augment decision, right? So that to me would be a much cleaner UI for people not to feel like there's so much choice here, like holy shit. Let me see, as my last point, Vlad wants to hide the PoE-ness of the tree instead of it being upfront about it. People will 100% hate that. I don't think so. Again, like when I've heard people talk about, or a lot of the people that I've seen play Last Epoch, the ability trees and stuff like that, I can't imagine if they made an ability tree similar to Last Epoch or like PoE, but the way Last Epoch does it is that each skill has its own talent tree. And I think it's very clean. So you're not like, you have 5 skills with 5 different talent trees, but because they're all lumped together, like it's more manageable. It's more, it declutters the noise. I haven't heard a single person say that was a bad decision on their part. Let me see, which is exactly what I'm saying. It's going to be way too complicated already, even without the 5 passives per skill. Well, Ashes of Creation, I hate to tell you, dude, is a complicated game. Like it's going to have a lot of bells and whistles with this game. I am not trying to make this game overly complicated, but at a base level already, yes, this game is super overly complicated. Like if I try to explain the node system to a singular person, I can't do that in a couple of sentences. There is so much to the node system alone that I can't just describe a node system to somebody in 2 sentences. Like a lot of systems are like this. Like, and I've always said like Ashes of Creation is kind of like the PoE MMO, like not just in the sense of a talent tree, but just in the sense of overall like broader systems. Like it's a lot to ask for. Hasumoto 81, you want to ask me something. What is it? What is your question? Just at me and I will answer it for you. Also, the node system is like 3 AAA games smushed under one umbrella. Yeah, 100%. 100%. So many systems and systems that are all tied together in some way. I do like LE's skill tree design, but I hate the point dumps. I mean, again, like the system and how Ashes is going to do it, there's going to be, I feel like this is still like version 1.0, right? As far as a talent tree goes. This is something that I am very, very, very passionate about. I want talent trees in Ashes to feel really good, have a degree of customization that feels satisfying to players, that doesn't feel simplistic. Like, so what are we asking then? Are we wanting what New World did? Do we want just like 3-tiered talent tree? Like, okay, give me a second. Is this what we want right here? Like, is this a less complicated talent system that Intrepid can do? Should we just go with this and just forget everything else? Because I look at this and I no. Like, this ain't it. I'm sorry. Bard is the newest skill tree, 100%. And it's not really much of a passive tree at all. I mentioned the one thing that I did like about the Bard ability tree, because it very much is an ability tree, not really a passive tree, is the masteries. Is every single class going to have masteries that you can choose that kind of changes the play style at a very base and fundamental level? Like, I think this is really, really, really good. But again, like, so this is not, I mean, this is going to be a passive, right? But you have like all of these are abilities, all these are abilities, all these are abilities. This is an ability, passive, masteries, passive, 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 passive. That's it. So, yes, you do have a lot of abilities, but every MMO gives you abilities as you level. There's nothing really revolutionary in that. But where's the customization? Like, is if all we're really talking about now is just the customizing of what abilities you choose versus what I choose, that's boring. Like, I'm sorry, but that's going to get really, really boring. New World, that's another skill tree. You have to spend X points to get to the next skill. Maybe I just don't understand the reasoning. So a lot of talent trees, like, again, like there are many ways in how you can create a talent system, right? You can do like spider web, ways to go about it. You can go down, up, down. Intrepid basically is going into a route of like, you start from this particular position, right? I changed it. But basically, like, for this, I don't know if at level 1, going to level 2, can I start here? Can I start here? Or do I have to start from the bottom? Like, again, this is the main issue I have with the talent trees so far, is that they don't have an easy way to tell you like where everything begins, right? Arrows go up. I totally get that. So that means to me that I can start here. Like, this is where I start, right? So I have to put a point either here, 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 or here. Okay, fine. That's cool. Like, but I also just want to have the understanding first. I can't really give an understanding until I get into Alpha 2 and I start playing with these things myself. And then I'll be able to leave a way more in-depth review and feedback loop as to the design and how it could change to better facilitate not just the abilities, but passives. just said Ashes is already complicated enough. Why pressure Intrepid by wanting them to change the talent tree to be like Ellie's talent system? So I'm not trying to make the like each tree feel like its own talent system, but what I'm saying is that the way the fighter feels is that there isn't truly any customization in the fighter. Like I don't really see much as far as abilities go. There's some abilities that have 0 passives to them. You can't customize them. So really all we're talking about is what abilities you choose. And again, this is another great conversation that I would love to ask Steven, is like, because each skill, you can augment it once, right? So that's a degree of customization. But I want there to feel like there's just a little bit more to the customization pool, because this is a game that I want there to have a longevity with. And again, for someone like myself, this is why I can't play a game like Final Fantasy XIV, because Final Fantasy XIV, there is 0 customization in that game. There is no talent tree at all. There's no trinkets. There's no anything. I don't even think there's set bonuses for classes. If you are a black mage, you are the same exact black mage as someone else. Like, and again, for someone like myself that really enjoys class customization, that's why I don't play Final Fantasy XIV, because this is something that I truly value and that I love, that I want there to feel like that's going to be present a little bit in Ashes. Let me see. Like last epoch, you have to spend 4 points. This skill to get past to the next skill seems dumb. Those types of point dumps and seem like they make it a waste points rather than lowering the total point, or just allowing you to get more skills / passives and level point dump skills if you want. I agree with that. Again, like this is why I'm going to be in the process today of making my video, because I'm trying to give Intrepid like what works in one system compared to another, and why this system is what it is and why this system is what it is, and give kind of like my impressions and thoughts as to like the goods and bads of this system, the goods and bads of this system, the goods and bads of this system. But again, like the ability and passive tree has, again, way more abilities and less passives. So I'm just trying to give a little bit more customization to the people like myself that really like the customization of passive skills or active skills. I'm sure the subclass you pick at level 25 will have its own tree adding to your base class, along with weapon talent trees. That will be plenty of passives on spells on your hotbar. I think it'll be enough. So the weapon tree is literally just your weapons. So everything that's going to be on your weapon is just going to involve your basic attack. That's it. Not your talent tree isn't going to affect anything from your class abilities. Let me see. I wonder, is the fighter might rely more on the weapon tree over a class tree, since the class is all about weapons? Potentially. Again, we don't know. But again, I think personally, basic attacks are going to be the thing that's going to separate a very good player in Ashes comparatively to a very bad player in Ashes. Because you think of all of these skills that we've seen on the showcase, whenever Steven turns off, because I know he likes to showcase the abilities without cooldowns, but when he turns the cooldowns back on, the lowest cooldown that I saw from a skill is 12 seconds. That's the lowest CD I saw. So once you like burst through all of your skills, you're on cooldown basically. So you have to be that player to really and truly utilize your basic weapon skills and your combos. But that isn't influencing or doing anything that I've seen so far from your actual base skills of your class. Those are two completely separate systems. So I understand there's going to be this level of complexity and customization from the weapon tree. I love that. I dig that. But I want there to also be a level of complexity and customization with the base abilities too, is what I am saying. Yes, because we haven't seen anything that says so. Yeah, I mean, it's just, like I said, this is a very early on. I've been thinking about making a video about this. This is something, again, I'm super passionate on. I've been wanting to talk about it or whatever. And yeah, I feel like it's just it's just something that I want to be able to give this kind of feedback to Intrepid, especially if the class designers or the people working on these trees are working on, because especially after seeing the Bard showcase, they're clearly having, they're trying to see what's going to work for their skills, right? Z, what's going on? It's so good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. You see, I want options. I like having options in games. Same. Absolutely the same. I like having options because it just allows for more customizing towards, different niches in the game, right? Like whether it's PvE, and if it is PvE, what is it? Dungeons? Is it single target? Is it AoE? Are you talking about raiding? Are you talking about questing? Which all can have different degrees of customization towards your abilities and skills and passives. Or now are we talking about PvP? Are we talking about naval? Are we talking about caravans? Are we talking about open world PvP? Are we talking about arenas? Are we talking about, like, what are we talking about here, right? Or are we talking about mixing both? Are we wanting kind of a PvP, PvE kind of build? Then there's going to be a whole degree of customization with that as well. Like, I love that. I love being able to customize abilities and skills and working with trees. It's just something I'm very passionate about. It's something I really, truly love. And it brings a lot of longevity for me as a player. Let me see. I mean, it's a fight class. What MMO or RPG that has a fighter class be super in depth? I mean, again, coming from World of Warcraft, I mean, the Fury Warriors talent tree is pretty crazy. The arms tree is I haven't played arms in a long time, but there's a lot of degree of customization for the Fury Warrior in WoW. So, I mean, I don't think that just because you're a fighter or a warrior, like most warriors are very basic in nature. There is a lot of different ways to customize abilities to make your rotational gameplay quite different. Let me see. I'm excited to see this video, Vlhadus. Y'all have so much great feedback to give, and like, let's be real, open development ain't easy. Oh, 100% it's not. I can only imagine like what the team is going through trying to figure out this stuff. Because even for me, for making this video, like, I want to give all of this stuff in a way that is presented to say, yes, I don't like this, but this is what I do like, and this is where the flaws that I think are, and this is where I think the talent trees could shine and better showcase to people that aren't just going to see this giant tree and be confused. Let me see. If we all do this work and y'all don't tell us when you think something isn't working, then we spend a lot of effort for nothing. Exactly. And this is why I think a lot of the people that I've talked to were like, Vlad, just wait, dude, just wait. Like, wait to see the talent tree at a more fleshed out point. And I'm like, well, yeah, it might be too late then. Because again, if the foundation they're working on isn't the right foundation, the correct foundation, or a sturdy foundation, like, they did all that work for nothing. Now they have to tear it all down and start from scratch. You know? He's going to be maining trees. Yes, I am going to be maining trees. 100%. Drogue, what's going on, dude? Good to see you, buddy. Lyra Sinar, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome. We're just talking about the ability and talent passive trees for Ashes of Creation. But I will say this, Plandorf, the one thing that I really loved about the Bard tree is these masteries. Because I feel like these masteries should probably go here on the right-hand side, and that should be something that you have an option to do right off the bat, right? So like, as you start off your base archetype, you have like 3 masteries you can choose from, right? So that way it doesn't interfere with the actual abilities and everything like that. This might be better off just like off to the side and being like, oh, which mastery would you want to select? Or you can just have like a special little UI thing at the top that says like, you know, fighter masteries or bard masteries or whatever. I don't know if masteries is something that's going to be done class wide or archetype wide. I kind of hope so personally, because I really do love the idea of just completely different masteries that you can go into. So, yep, agreed. More options. Think of all of the build combos, especially if they're going to do group combos where skills work with other players' abilities. Exactly. I mean, that's the thing I thrive on. This is the thing that I think the whole build composition and, you know, having bards and clerics and tanks and, you know, all these different classes in your in your party and stuff like that. And especially if you're going to be like heavily talented into certain abilities, because again, if these things cost talent points and there is like 4 to 5 passives per skill, you could just blow your load on all passives, right? But you'll only have like 8-7 abilities potentially, right? Because again, like if you want a wider array of abilities to account for more bits of content, then, you know, you might be too niched in the way that if you're going to do some PvE content, you're going to be lacking some PvP abilities, right? Because you focused too hard in some of the passives. And again, I love that. That's the thing that I want present in Ashes, is the fact that like, ooh, shit, we're doing a dungeon and I focused all my stuff onto single target PvE abilities with my passives, but now we're running to some PvP stuff and I am totally not built for it. Like that's the things that I want people to kind of encounter in Ashes, right? Yes, all passive stacked on one mega skill, mage just casting Death Star every 30 seconds. Well, that's the thing, right? And if they chose to have one ability with 5 passives, that's their choice, right? They chose to put in 6 talent points into a singular skill. And I think that's totally fine, because now you're going to have maybe some other people that are just going to select like maybe one passive here, one passive there, but they have like 17 abilities they can do at any given time. Right? So you have one person that has like very limited skill set because they're very heavily augmented and customized. And then you have another person with a very wide toolkit, but they're not as, as passive, or, there's not as much customization within these abilities, but they still do damage. Right? So it just depends on what kind of kit you want to go with. And that's just the thing that I really, really love. Yeah, it would be like I put 1 point in this healing spell, so I have some small support healing versus I spend all my points because this is my dedicated skill that I want to use primarily. Exactly. That's exactly my thing. And, in most MMOs, right, you have what's called, usually we talk about rotations, but every class has a builder and a finisher, right? So you have skills on your class that build, whether it's like mana, whether it's momentum, whether it's whatever secondary kind of stat, or like mana, any kind of regen or whatever like that. And then you have your finishers, right? The thing that you're building to, the thing that you are trying to do, the hard hitting ability, right? Whether it's like, as a Fury Warrior, it can be Rampage. If you're playing a Demonology Warlock, it's Hand of Kuldan that you're building and kind of doing. If you are playing a Windwalker Monk, then you're basically, your generator is your Tiger Palm, but then you're spending it on your Fist of Fury, right? So I don't know if Ashes is going to have a kind of class design in that kind of way. If there's going to be like a primary builder and then there's going to be like finishers with them, or if they're just going to they're just abilities, right? There isn't really a kind of synergy in that way. It just depends on the given situation. Again, I'm not trying to make Ashes like World of Warcraft. This is just where my mind goes, because I'm primarily a WoW player, right? Personally, when I choose a fighter in an MMORPG, I'm not looking for super complicated class. I just want a class that hits thing really hard with a big weapon. No, absolutely. I mean, again, I think Beastmaster in World of Warcraft is very much that. It's a very, very, very simplistic class. There's not really you can't really mess up playing a Beastmaster Hunter in a WoW. I just feel like the ability add points to a skill creates more build diversity, which is good. Yeah. Ability bloat is a problem. And again, I feel like if you want to create that to be your problem, that's your choice, right? Which is why I think it's a good decision to have abilities actually be on a talent tree like this and have talent points be spent on them. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't like a lot of abilities on your bar, then you're probably going to specialize more into customizing and putting points into passives, right? But if you don't like but if you do like having a lot of abilities, then it's your choice to do so. But I feel like right now with the current talent tree design, if you don't like ability bloat, I'm sorry, you're going to have a lot of abilities on your bars. Like there's just no way around it. Like, I mean, again, you're not going to spend ability or talent points on your weapon tree. So the only thing that I am still lacking to see is the universal tree, right? Because the points of allocation for your talents are going to be from your ability and passive tree, which is what's shown currently, and then the universal tree, which Steven has talked about, which is more into the lens of like utility, and even like he talked about the shield being on there or something like that. So aren't there skill upgrades? Yes, there are skill upgrades, but there are very few and far between. So as an example, there's menacing medley, and then there is a work in progress. So let me show you a little bit more. Like I was showing the fighter earlier, right? And again, the fighter has great examples of really good passives. There's just very few of them. But the fighter showcase, like if you go and look at exert, there are 2 passives for exert, which is right here. Unstoppable exert, which exert additionally breaks all hard control effects on the caster and may be used anytime while under hard control effect, which is really, really good for PvP. And then you have reinvigorating exert. Exert additionally refreshes all ability cooldowns by 1% per point of combat momentum the caster has upon activation. So very good passive, but that's it. That's it. That's all you get. Those are, you get two passives to get exert. So this is why, like, I think, again, some of these passives are pretty good, but I just feel like there just needs to be a little bit more, right? Because again, the augment tree isn't truly going to augment these abilities in the way that people think, and you're only going to be able to make one choice of that augment, right? So you have 4 options. You can choose one. So that's one way to customize these skills. I think just having a couple of more would be really, really good. Let me see. The lack of abilities in WoW is never my issue. It was always the added arena 1 2 3 focus 1 2 3 target mouse over macros and focus macros on top of normal abilities that bloats the bar keys. Yeah, I feel like WoW's PvP is just, it's dead. You go look at any of the hardcore arena PvP people in YouTube, no one's doing it. I think Venruki is like, he's made several videos on how terrible the PvP is in WoW and just the state of it. It's just terrible. Let me see. I don't think there will be a difference between a PvP build and a PvE build. Just builds that focus on type of damage mitigation, damage type focus, and maybe stat resource increase. Potentially. Like, we don't know, right? Again, these trees, you got to think of them as kind of like 1.0 versions. And as we start seeing more skills, I think you can start seeing, again, just look at an example of exert right here. This is very much like a very good PvP skill because it breaks all hard control effects on the caster. So if you are in a PvP thing and you are, Marilyn, thank you so much for the prime. Thank you. So yes, this is definitely I would call this a PvP nature passive. Even though in PvE you can have a mob, CC like someone for a little bit or whatever. But yeah, this is definitely a PvP thing. 100%. It's a terrible AoE Mythic Plus game now. Who does the most AoE and macro CC? Yeah, I know. Like I said, I was talking earlier that basically all WoW is just, in my opinion, it's just a dungeon and raid simulator. That's it. Like, PvP is pretty much non-existent in that game anyway. So, let me see. I think 2 passives for 1 skill is fine. You don't even get that many in most MMOs. I mean, yes and no. I mean, again, Final Fantasy 14, you got no customization. New World, you do have with your weapons, because that's your class technically is the weapon, which I don't like. But yeah, I mean, you do have sometimes more than 2, right? World of Warcraft, you definitely have more than 2. At Guild Wars 2, I think you definitely have more than 2. So yeah, I think in most MMOs, yeah, you do have a lot of options. Hell, even if you look at like Classic WoW, like Classic WoW does actually influence more so your player character, because there's a lot of passives that just increase your critical strike, adds dodge, you know, does more dot damage. So it's not really passives that influence the actual skill, but you know, there are some that do influence the skill. It just, you know, Classic WoW was, you know, kind of old school in that nature, right? Like Final Fantasy 14, WoW is pretty much a single player game that occasionally needs to rely on other people that might as well just be NPCs anyway. Well, they are now. You can do a dungeon with just AI, which is kind of nuts. Maybe there could be some literal PvP and PvE specific passives, have them reference damage into players or damage to enemy NPCs and damage to bosses, elites, and such like that. Potentially. That's what I mean. Like, I'm not trying to like just close the book on the whole, I don't think there's going to be PvE or PvP builds. I mean, as of right now, there doesn't look like there is in that way, but it could end up being that way. We don't know. And based off of feedback in Alpha 2, the talent trees or the abilities or the tooltips could end up leaning more in that direction. We don't know. Easier to spec into PvE/PvP. Yeah. Vertec also, good to see you, buddy. But yeah, I think it's going to be for someone like myself, like I'm just a little worried because I think these trees need a lot of work, right? And I want to do like my job as a content creator to help Intrepid out, to see like what would be a better version of this tree. Like if this tree had to be redesigned from the ground up, what would that redesign look like? Right? And that's what I'm going to try my best to do. Let me see. Do you think we will see the other 10 to 15 or so skills for every class for A2? I know they said it would be 30 to 40 per class. Yeah. I think I don't think it'll be day one of Alpha 2. I think what we've been seeing as far as the showcases, we will continue to see those kinds of skills. So I would say anywhere between probably like 12 to maybe 18 abilities for all of the archetypes that they've shown. That's what I kind of think. I think as we go into higher level caps, we'll start earning or getting more abilities. But I think for now, I think we're going to start out probably with level. I wouldn't be surprised at level 15, but I think they're going to give us level 25 without the augment system. I think Steven has said in the past 35 that Alpha 2 will start off like your max level will be going to 35, but I think that's changed. I think they were thinking they were going to get into the augment system. And the fact that Steven said recently that they haven't even really started working on the augment system, I think we're still kind of a ways from there, because they're still, like from what Steven said, they're still trying to get their primary classes finished. Let me see. Damn, I can't wait to get all y'all in those spot tests. If not, then Alpha 2 can't come soon enough. Yeah, I know, dude. I literally can't wait either. Let me see. These trees are even close to being done yet. 200 skill points at level 50 is a lot of points, and we know there will be more branches than we can buy. Well, and that's the thing, right? Because as someone who isn't a PoE player, I don't like that tree. I really, really don't. And if there is going to be 200 skill points, yeah, we need to find a way to make that more manageable and more digestible for people to not completely feel overwhelmed. Because again, when you open that tree for the first time in PoE, you're just like, you get the immediate reaction to get super duper excited, or you just close the game and realize, I'm sorry, this isn't the game for me. And for as someone like myself who, like I said, I've been very passionate about, I love customization, I love doing all this other stuff, that to me is at a level that even myself gets turned off into, because that gets way too nerdy, like way too much. Like I can't, I mean, dude, that tree almost has like what, 300 nodes. It's insane. Like and the interactions with where you can go, what you decide to choose, like it's borderline endless, you know. But again, it's an ARPG, right? You're not truly playing with other people. It's mostly a single player game at that point. Yes, I know you can play PoE with others, but I mean, it's more of a game you can do by yourself. You say, I wonder if it's too reasonable for wanting a more complicated tree. I want to make some sacrifice, have weapon talents, and to take into consideration about equipment bonuses. Yeah, like I said, I think having anywhere between 2 to 5 passives per skill is what I want and what I want to advocate for. Again, I don't mind if Exert had just these 2 options, but I feel like for Exert being a major cooldown, Exert would be something that I would want to have probably like 5 passives to choose from. Maybe for the more like builder, spender, or just like kind of like, even something like this, right? Like the Leap Strike. Like if Leap Strike only had 2 passives, I'm fine with that. Right? But I just want there to feel like you do have options to customize, right? That it's not just going to get stale and boring with just very, very, very limited passive options. Like that's what I don't want. Let me see, 200 points split between your class and weapon, your weapon skill trees. Maybe that's general skill tree too. No, your weapon skill tree will not require any kind of talent point allocation from leveling from your class. Steven says that as you level, your weapon tree is going to have its own experience bar that will level on its own. So that it'll be its own separate entity of leveling comparatively to leveling your specific class character. Let me see. As long as they don't put a lot of the double-edged sword passives in the passive tree, I'm fine with 200 points. Well, and again, like I honestly don't even know if the 200 point system allocation is a good idea. Like I again, like until this is the whole problem with stuff on paper, is that I understand from a point of view, you can look at like, oh my God, 200 points. Like that gets me excited. It's like, oh my God, imagine all of the options. Those options could feel very conflated and very rudimentary and basic. And I would rather have more meaningful, like looking at something and being like, damn, because when you're more limited to your skill points, you have to make more crucial decisions. So I don't think going the route of 200 points is the way to go. I think going fewer is better. Like I think having, again, if you do 1 talent point per level, there's going to be 50 levels. I think 50 points to spend between your ability and passive tree and the universal tree is totally fine. Like I think it's totally fine. So, but again, like we'll have to wait and see. And weapons will have will level 3x the speed of normal leveling. Yes, exactly. Let me see. Steven wants to give 1 point per 1 point every 4th level to give progress while you level. No, I understand that, but I don't know if that's the route to go, is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if that is something that is a good idea. And again, yeah, we'll have to play it. Like I just, again, this is all just gut initial reaction. I don't know if 200 points is going to end up being what we're going to get. Again, this is almost very similar to the way Steven talked about when nodes went from 103 nodes to 85 nodes. Sometimes more isn't technically better. I would rather have better quality than quantity. That is my personal like mantra when it comes to talent systems or just anything that we're currently watching here. And I think the same thing they realized with the node system. I think they were, originally with 103, but then they kind of just realized maybe we just need to do less and just put, more content in them. And that's what they're doing. He needed to spread out the POI. I mean, yes. I mean, I feel like, but they made, the thing is that they also made the map bigger. They probably could have facilitated 103 nodes, especially with the increase in land size. But I think, again, they were thinking more quality than quantity. And I think this is, This is something that I want to keep in my head once we get into Alpha 2, because again, I want to see how it feels to get a kind of skill point every 4th level, right? 25%, 50%, 75%, and then ding, you hit level 2. Like, I want to see what that feels like. But I also don't want a completely diluted talent tree because of it either. So, unfortunately, this conversation is too cool for me to get any work done with this in the background, so I'm going to mosey out. Stoked to hear the feedback and catch your video, man. Thank you for the stream. I'm sorry, y'all. Just too fun to talk with. No, you're good. You're good, man. Thank you so much, man. Don't work too hard, man, and please get rest when you need to. If some skills can eat 5 points, if you want to specialize into it, 200 points can go fast. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, I think if I could have a gut reaction of something being negative, and then I can get into it and be like, oh man, boy, was I fucking wrong. You know, I'm going to be honest with you guys and just tell you how I feel. Like, I just feel like 200 points, I think of what 200 points can give in my head, right? I can get all copiumed out of like, oh my God, imagine all the skill points and all of the passives and all the ways to customize. Like, and I get super excited. But I also feel like, again, there could be the opposite thing where everything just feels so basic. And yes, you can spend those 200 points really fast, but it feels like you really didn't customize meaningfully, right? That's the thing. Let me see. Do they work on Sundays too? Well, again, Intrepid's probably been in crunch. I've been saying this. No one has told me this. I haven't talked to Nathan privately or Corey or anyone else. But again, anytime you have a company that is trying to release a major product, or like get to a release, you have what's called crunch. You can Google what is crunch from a gaming company. Crunch is basically working round the clock to make a deliverable on time. Their deliverable being Alpha 2. So I would not doubt if Steven and the other people are working on weekends, working anywhere between 12, 15, 17 hours a day. It just depends. Imagine the balance they would have to do with that as well. Yeah, I know. Like, it's crazy. And let's be honest, 90% of players are going to look up a build online anyways. Well, yeah, I know, but I don't. I usually look at, like, when I go to WoW, I look at the build guide and I'm like, oh, okay. But then there's another website that I go to look at, like, what damage this thing is compared to this thing is. And what's so funny is that, especially a lot of the stuff currently in Dragonfly going into the pre-patch for War Within, a lot of the talents that a lot of the WoW players say, like, oh, this is the talent you want to pick, the other one's like crap. It's crap by 0.3%. I feel like there's so much meta slaves that because a top 1% mythic raider tells you that this is how I build my thing or whatever to get the top damage. Dude, I used to literally, for memes, spec completely wrong in raid just to prove to people that you can be competitive with all of the wrong talents. And I would be like third sometimes. Like, I wouldn't be first because, of course, there were some people really, really good in my raiding group. But I'd be third sometimes on the charts on certain bosses with all the wrong talents. So what's the excuse then? Just play what you want, man. Like, that's what I do. Like, I literally just look at a skill and I determine, like, this is the thing that I like and this is what I love to build towards. So I get all the passives in my trees to facilitate those play styles. That's what I do. Customizing down to having enough pathways where you can't buy them all. That allows a build diversity and not all fighters are the same. Well, that's the thing too. I don't want the kind of, and again, because people will follow guides. I do agree with Drogue. There are going to be people that are going to follow guides. There's going to be a lot of people that, are going to kind of spec off of different ways because of the multitude of different arrays of content you're going to be potentially doing, which is dungeons, arena. Like, I don't think your arena build for Ashes of Creation is going to be the exact carbon copy of your dungeon build, right? So it truly just comes down to, if you're going to be meta, then what are you choosing to be meta in? Are you going to be meta in open world PvP? Are you going to be meta in arenas? Are you going to be meta in the PvP battlegrounds? Are you going to be meta in the world boss design? Are you going to be meta in questing? Like, what are you trying to be meta in, right? So that to me is the big thing. Let me see, how many more years do we have before AOC will release? I think we still have about 3 years. I think 2027. Let me see, but a S plus class isn't an S plus class with an E tier player behind the keyboard. That's also very true. And again, you can have the cutting edge build like for an average player, and you cannot execute that rotation correctly. You could miss your major cooldowns. You can miss time windows. You can miss, potting. You can miss your consumables. There's so much that separates a good player from a bad player, even with the same build. So that's why I always tell people, just play what you want, and be in a guild that, again, that if they're very meta mindseted players, then make sure you are one too, right? If you're not very much a meta mindseted player, then make sure the guild you're joining isn't meta mindseted players either, right? Just join people that think the way you do. In Ashes, your build, I feel, won't matter unless you're in sync with your team as well. Well, that's the thing too, right? Like that's why I keep telling, like, the meta, I don't know if there's really going to feel like the meta, because unless everyone in your group is playing the meta, right? Because if you're playing with the Bard and they're let's say the meta is like all about mana battery, right? And then you're playing a fighter and it's all meta, like as a fighter being, whatever the fighter's doing, then yes, like I feel like the synergy doesn't truly matter at that point. But there could be some very niche situations where your Bard is doing something completely different based off of their skills, their passives, and everything like that. And you're complementing them in a very niche way on your different class, right? So I think group composition is going to play a major role in how people are going to spec and do things. Or you might just want to find someone who is lacking in a particular department in your guild or in your group that a class is going to be able to provide. That's basically the thing. Most people don't take advantage of the reasonings things are meta. You have to be good without the meta to be good with it. Yes, I think that is, Wagsy, you're basically preaching at that point, because I've seen it too many times where people put way too much stock into the meta, and that's not the case. Like I feel people just... There's some players that think they're good with, how can I say it? There are players that think they are better than what they actually are. I've seen players be like, oh dude, like I'm really good. I used to parse this back in the day and I'm an amazing player. And then they come back and they're doing like, not terrible, but they ain't number 1 or number 2 or number 3 either. You know what I mean? And it's like, just be humble, man. Just, come back with a good attitude. I don't know. There's just a lot of players in WoW, especially when it comes to the raiding scene, where they put too much value into builds. They put too much value into like skills and abilities, stuff like that. To me, it's all about your execution. That's it. A tight rotation will always win out. Always. To be fair, we all have to spec for open world PvP unless you want to have a bad time. I just hope being forced to spec that way affects the PvE gameplay. Well, and that's what I mean, right? Like, because if we're talking about, specking for PvE, is it probably going to be too different from specking to PvE? Like, well, then build diversity really isn't going to exist, right? Like, this is what Vertec was probably talking about earlier with having certain tooltips, say, instead of just towards like enemies, which anything can be considered an enemy, it can be just towards players or just towards like NPCs, right? So it has that differentiating of passive as to like, are you wanting to be more PvP in nature? Or are you wanting to be more PvE in nature? But by being one or the other will be a little bit detrimental towards one or the other. And if you want to be the jack of all trades, to be kind of average in both, well, then guess what? You're average in both. You're not going to excel in PvE, nor are you going to excel in PvP. But again, if you're a really good player, you can still be kind of competitive in both arenas, right? So it just depends. Let me see. I'm the best mid-tier player you'll ever meet. Yeah, I know some of those. I know you do, Roar. Let me see. Do you think Ashes will have fixed rotations or more free form combat? I think Ashes is going to have for someone like myself that is very much, like I said, class oriented, skill oriented, passive oriented, just talent oriented. I think there is going to be variations of rotations, but I think what's really going to be the differentiating factor is your basic attacks. The weaving in and out of your basic attacks is going to cause the separation between a average player to an extraordinary player. Because again, just like I mentioned earlier, the lowest skill down, like cooldown of these skills is like 12 seconds. So this one's 15-second cooldown. 12-second cooldown. 18-second cooldown. 15-second cooldown. 5-second cooldown. 20-second cooldown. Oh, that's one of the forms. Let me see. That's 30-second cooldown. It's Battle Cry. Ten-second cooldown. So lowest being a 10-second cooldown, really. Like, you're going to be weaving a lot of your basic attacks. Like, if you just pop all of your major abilities, like what we just saw, you're going to be waiting a while before they come back. So I think you're going to have to really rotate your cooldown abilities in a way that makes you like have this kind of a cadence, so to speak, right? You're going to have a cadence to it to where you have these abilities that are coming off of cooldown and rotating them in a way where you're not just, you popped all your load and now you're just basic attack, basic attack, basic attack, basic attack, basic attack. You know, it's like, I don't think that's going to really be the way to play. I think you're truly going to have to create a rotation based on the abilities you have chosen to have like a kind of like to where it feels like it's never stopping, right? Like that's the beauty of what I hope happens with Ashes. You have to also remember you need to take advantage of your team status effects they put up. Oh yeah, I think Ashes will function as a priority system rather than a classic rotation. I think priority systems to me is still a rotation because you're still prioritizing in a rotational way what abilities kind of go off the docket. So, I mean, it is kind of, to me, when I always hear like, oh, it's more of a priority than a rotation, it's like, well, priorities are kind of a rotation, so to speak, because you're prioritizing like this skill and that skill, this skill and that skill. But I mean, I don't know. It's still very much a rotation in some ways. A lot of those skills are very situational, i.e. charge, leap, battle cry. So it's not like a rotation. Well, that's what I mean, right? Like, I think it's going to be more, like I said, I think the basic attack, because this isn't going to truly be like an auto attack kind of tap target game, like similar to World of Warcraft. Your basic attack gameplay is going to be very fundamental to the kind of player you're going to end up being. I love the status effects promote system. Reminds me of a lot of Guild Wars 2. Yeah. So it's definitely gonna be one of those things where I think rotation is going to be very much into what skills you decide to pick, because if you're going to be that meta player, then of course some guide will have it all laid out as to how you're going to do your rotation and what skills to do and how to do it and blah, blah, blah. But I think if you're going to be in a very niche kind of build that you personally built yourself, then it's a matter of building your rotation and prioritizing skills that come off cooldown, and also weaving in those basic attacks so that way you always feel like you're constantly attacking with meat rather than, just pushing whatever comes off cooldown first, right? That's why I kind of never really got into Lost Ark, because Lost Ark kind of felt that way. Lost Ark, you just pop all your abilities, and then you're just waiting for one to come off cooldown. You push that one, the next one come off cooldown, you push that one, and then come off cooldown, you push that one. Like, I don't know. It got very, very boring. It didn't really feel like I was doing anything meaningful because you have very limited skills and you just hit them off cooldown, really. Do you think Ashes will have spammable abilities? I don't know if they're going to have generators. Again, this is something that I think we still have to look forward to. We haven't seen the entirety of the toolkits as far as classes go. We've seen just previews. So there could be some builders But you can also honestly consider your basic attack to potentially be a builder. We don't know, right? We don't know to the extent of the weapon combos and how those are going to feel in, you know, like whether it's going to be in alignment with your abilities and how that functions. I hope there's some kind of interplay there, but from what it looks like to me, they look very much like separate systems. Oh. Yeah, that's why weapons have their own skill trees, it seems. 100%. 100%. Do we know what completes a weapon basic or weapon combo attack? Can you use one basic, then cast a spell, another basic, then it continues the combo? We don't know. Like, we don't know. Like, I mean, I've seen them use the combos when it comes to the ranger, or when they talked about it with the fighter and stuff like that. But I want to do it myself. Like, and I want to see these trees myself, right? Like, it's just, we don't know. Like, until we get into Alpha 2, we really just don't know. Highly doubt there's going to be a builder, will be builder abilities like Diablo 4 kind of thing with every class using mana, that negate mana. Well, let me just be honest, and this may be a hot take. I think as a DPS, the fact that you would run out of mana is kind of dumb. Like, and I know mage players may be like, oh, well, mana is like the primary thing that you would need. Like, maybe again, it's the more of my healer mentality, but I think managing mana is more like a healer thing than a DPS thing. Like, that's just my thing. Like, as a DPS, I just want to do damage. I just want to spam my abilities and do stuff. But I also realize that the reason why mana is going to matter in the sense of it being depleted is because that's what makes bards a part of your group dynamic, right? So if bards come in and you have a really good bard, you may not worry about mana at all as a DPS because the bard just is on top of it. Your mana regen is just really good. So technically it's like a retail WoW experience, because if you have a bard in your group, mana is a thing of the past for you. You can be a fighter, you can be a ranger, you can be a rogue, you can be a mage, and mana is not even a question of like, oh, I got to sit down and drink, because the bard is just really good and, comes up with, it basically like makes it moot anyway, right? You should have to choose between completing the combo and using a spell. I think a better question, do you all think there should be spammable abilities? I mean, to me, spammable abilities are like, like Whirlwind in World of Warcraft as a warrior. That's a spammable ability. You can just hit that over and over and over and over and over if you want. But I think any kind of a spammable ability shouldn't be like a hard hidden ability unless there's some kind of a passive that makes it a proc to be stronger, right? But I think at a base level, like if you want to be able to do something at a spammable level, I think that's why your basic attack exists. Your basic attack is meant to be that spammable ability. Is there Bard mana regeneration melody a set regen, or is it stat based? I think it's a set regen, if I'm not mistaken. I'll go and check. Well, also without mana, it can make a class OP. Think of Pathfinder or D&D and other TRPGs. There's only so much you can do in a round that would make abilities limited while allowing for real-time strategy. I get that, but when it comes to MMOs, if you're in a raid and you literally run out of mana like a fourth into the raid boss encounter, like that just feels gross. That just doesn't feel good, right? So I think there's, we're not living in 2004 anymore, right? So, hold on, let me drink some water. My throat's so dry. Skill issue. Yeah. All right. Let's look. Right here. Restores mana equal to 1 plus 1% magical power every 2 seconds. Melodies can be played concurrently with other abilities. Let me see. Music mastery. That's the counterpoint and crescendo. So the melodies, I think crescendo is going to be a little overpowered because I think a lot of people like the counterpoint one. But the fact that you can actually have your music crescendo over time to get more and more powerful, that just means that your mana, the mana you're going to start getting is going to trickle in stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. So let me see. I don't know. I don't mind resource management. No, I don't mind resource management when it comes to secondary stuff. Like, again, as a rogue in World of Warcraft, or as a warrior in World of Warcraft, right, that doesn't rely off of mana, I think being able to build your rage or spend your energy in a way that's meaningful, and you managing it in a way that fits your rotation and your finishers and your builders and stuff like that is fun gameplay, right? But I just think mana, in the sense of like if you go to classic WoW and you're playing a hunter and you're just doing your rotation and you're just naturally running out of mana, this is why they ended up adding Aspect of the Viper, because in the sense of classic went, it just felt very gross being able to, like, again, you had to have gear and stuff like that kind of manage your mana and everything like that, because even doing your rotation like meaningfully, like, you would basically lose out on mana, and you would end up just being completely depleted. Let me see. It definitely feels like you messed up on that raid. Let me see. You could balance classes with resource management, so I think even DPS should run out of mana. Well, and again, another hot take. I don't think the fighters should rely on mana at all. Like, I think momentum should be its primary resource. Like, I don't. That's just, again, another opinion of mine. Like, I think some classes can rely off of mana, but I think other classes, it's just not the kind of resource that should be managed from that particular class. Like a rogue with mana, like, I'm sorry, that just doesn't, in my head, that doesn't work. But again, just my opinion. I mean, I don't want everyone to agree with me. I'm just letting you guys know what I think. Let me see. Calling mana a different thing for each class doesn't change anything. Well, I mean, there's different ways that certain resources are regenerated, right? So, I mean, they are kind of different resources on how they come back to you. Let me see. I hope they add another support class like the Bard. Maybe another caster like the Enchanter from EQ2 would be cool. Or the Druid. The Druid. So we love you even though you're wrong. Well, I'm wrong all the time, dude. That's par for the course. Let me see. I think if we are going to give the rogue true stealth, that implies some use of the essence. So mana tracks for me. Oh, like I said, to each their own. I mean, this is why I don't mind having a dual resource system the way Ashes is doing, right? Because we have mana being a resource there, but in my opinion, the primary resource for the fighter should be momentum. The secondary resource for the fighter should be mana, right? Just like a mage, the primary resource for the mage should be mana. The secondary resource should be, I don't know, like the whole, what was it that the mages do? There's like a going from like fire to lightning back to frost. There's like a kind of a thing with that. I don't know. They haven't really said what kind of their resource is. But yeah, I understand like the whole lore reason in Ashes, that, you know, the whole plane of existence, essence, and all that other stuff. So I guess like it makes sense, but I'm just talking about like having mana be the primary resource for all classes. Like, I don't know. It just, in my head, it's hard for me to compute. Let me see. Calling a class resource something different is incredibly important, because then you can separate the ways you generate it. Like warriors getting more strength to generate stamina, mages getting intellect to mana. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So like resources and having them work and act completely different is is the thing, right? And I think this is something that I think WoW's done very, very, very well with their class design. I really enjoy how a lot of different classes in WoW, they have mana, but it's more of a secondary resource. Like their primary resource is like chi for the monk, holy power for the paladin, like all that stuff, right? So it's like you have those things that I think work really, really well. Let me see. You'll escape WoW one day, dude. That one day will come in October. Very, very, very soon. Very, 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 very soon. This is Ashes, not WoW. Well, I'm not playing Ashes. I have only played WoW. So I'm only telling you guys like what I've played and what I know feels good from my point of view. Like, again, I'm not trying to make Ashes into WoW, but I'm just saying like this does feel good in this game. And I just want to see how the resource manager is going to end up being, because let me tell you, a lot of the people that I talk to in classic WoW, mana isn't a thing that a lot of people enjoy. Like, oh man, I love leveling in classic WoW, being level 12 and just running out of mana all the time as a mage. I love it. It's just so much fun. Like I love pulling one mob and then having a drink, and then pull like another mob and then drinking, and then pull like again one more mob and then drinking. Like it's just so much fun. We say just because we are hardwired to think mana is mage / healers and energy for rogues and rage for warriors doesn't mean you can't just call it mana across the board and still have it. That's very true. I mean, but again, like I think having different resources for, being complementary to certain classes better and fits better for their class design, I think is important, right? I'm not saying to get rid of mana in general, but to have mana as a primary resource for some classes, but a secondary resource for others. So all classes use mana because it's there for the lore, it's there for the reasonings and all the other stuff, but it's not like the thing for some classes to use. Their thing is something else, right? Let me see. I unironically love that. Jeez. Okay, guys. Well, it's been a lot. It's been a lot of fun today. I don't know when I'm going to stream again. Because again, I'm going to be picking my wife up from the airport today. I'm going to be working on my video today, and I'm probably going to be working on it today, tomorrow, and the next day. I don't know when I'm going to try to release that video, but I'm not going to try to rush on it. Let me see. I disagree with you on your take on mana. I know it's fine. We can disagree all day, but I just love having the conversation, because once we get into the alpha 2, once we start playing it, like, I just want to see what it is. I want to see what the realistic take is, because it may not even be an issue. Like, I just think, again, playing classic last night, and my buddy Wagsy was just like, he was playing a mage, and it's like after one, and we were playing together, and he would run out of mana after killing one mob, and we have to drink and have to drink and have to drink. And it's just like, man, I was like, I forgot how much you have to drink in classic, man. Jesus Christ, man. But, so I'll let you guys know if you guys follow me on Twitter. I will leave my post on there to see like when the next time I can possibly stream. For sure, I will stream this Friday at 7 p.m. I think also for sure. Oh no, because Friday's the AMA this week. I will stream live an hour probably before the stream, which is 12 noon Central Time. And I'll stream all the way until it's over. So if you guys want to come on my stream and watch me react to it live, I will be doing it on Friday. If I do stream beforehand, I will let you know, or just like, again, follow me on Twitch. You can hit that heart button right now. It stays up to date anytime I go live randomly, or hit that subscribe button on YouTube. If you enjoy watching me on YouTube, I really appreciate all the YouTube people watching me. Hit the subscribe button and it'll give you the notification anytime I go live, but I just don't know when. I can't really give you, a particular time frame, but I am so hyped. 5 days more. We are 5 days away now from this AMA. So we're finally going to get some really, really good information. So I'm really excited. I do have the list of all the questions that I got, from you guys a couple of what was it, yesterday. So I'm gonna be posting that on the AMA forum, and I know they probably won't look at it and stuff like that, but I hope maybe they can, because they know I'm a content creator. I'll just post like all those questions to see if there's maybe one or two that hadn't been asked, because there were a couple that I don't think I saw asked. But yeah, you guys have a great rest of your day. Is anybody streaming in the Ashes category right now? Oh, look, Loreforge is on. Sweet. All right, guys. You have yourself a great rest of your day. Be safe. Have a great and safe Sunday. And I will see you guys soon. Take care, guys.